Hello. What's up, everybody? We're gonna wait a little bit, just let some people trickle in. Not really. I'm not sure what to expect for today because we haven't. This is I think the fourth time we've done a book review, but we haven't done one at this time. So,
I think it's our fifth, actually.
oh, fifth, dang.
Yeah, we did The Hand, we did Matt on the Moon, we did The Clay Book, and Fool's Gold. So this is our fifth.
Dang.
How time flies, huh?
Yeah. No, I really like the segment of that this has become of my channel. It's been really dope.
Yeah, it's been fun, especially when people in the chat that are observing and picking up on things that even we're not seeing as we're talking about it. Real time.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess while people are trickling in, I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone knows who we are at this point, but just in case, I'm Sean. I just changed my YouTube name. So I go by Widow Son now, and I have my very, very good friend with me, AJ, and he goes by Ball Don't Lie on Instagram. I'll just give him just a brief moment just to say whatever he wants to introduce himself and what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, just a thank you as always, Sean. Like we were just saying, this is our fifth read through now. I really appreciate you giving me your platform and the opportunity to get the word out. I think a common theme is that you'll notice if you've watched any of our other read throughs and or if you've read any of my other books, they do kind of start to they kind of weave into themselves over time. And that's what's been kind of fun about writing these books and doing these read throughs, because we even look back to like a last read through and go, wow, look how relevant that was before we even knew how relevant it was. So yeah, no, it's fun. This is my 9th book now, all in. If you include the big one, my first book, and then my other minis, I'm at 9 now total. This is the 8th mini book. I think maybe for the next one, that'll be a quick read, is the Kobe book. I sent you that one, right?
Yeah.
So that one's really thin, really short and sweet to the point about the Kobe year. But yeah, there's a lot to be said about this book. I guess what's kind of hard is how do I kind of explain how do we get to this point? You know what I mean? Like at what point did I decide that or see that, oh, there's a lot of Lucky Charms stuff going on. That's why I'm rocking this shirt today.
Oh, that's big.
I thought that was very appropriate. And all I can say is that it really just stems back to all the other topics that you and I have been talking about for a long time. And you've been a huge part of all of these books, honestly, from the very beginning. And I kind of feel guilty for not giving you a thank you in earlier books. But as you saw, I got that thank you in the back with your, YouTube channel on there for however long it'll be up. But I always thank you, Sean, for the platform, your feedback, your additions, because you're a big part of this.
I really appreciate that. Like you really didn't need to, but it's an honor. It's a huge honor.
And I know you said you really liked this one, right? Like,
yeah.
You've kind of seen my progression, if you will. The knowledge is growing, it's expanding, right? And I'm always trying to challenge myself to find the cleanest but most visually appealing ways to share information. Because in the science of social media and whatnot, they say you only got like 3 seconds to capture someone's attention. And if you don't do it, then they're just going to scroll past. So I really emphasize this is actually my thickest mini book. And the reason that is because there is more information, but more so there's a lot more images. I put a lot more images than I already put in my other mini books. And, I think most people are visual learners. And that's why I wanted to take every chance I could as I was, typing things out to show a visual that was explaining like what I'm illustrating. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, no, that's about it. Just other than a big thank you to anybody else that's joining us tonight. Obviously, yeah, it's a late night Sunday, so whoever's up and interested to learn, let's have some fun.
Yeah, and I just want to say hello to our Jelly69. Thank you for commenting and being here. And I have not looked into that Sonia Massie thing.
I have.
Oh yeah.
I have, yeah, very high level. I mean, that's a really creepy, eerie story, obviously. But for me, I mean, just surface level, it's not even gematria related, but just the wordplay. Sonia or Sonia Massie. What happens right before she gets shot? She says twice. She says twice. What was it? I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, or I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's interesting. So that's like the last thing she says. And she's holding a pot of boiling water. And then she gets killed. Well, just look at her first name, Sonia, Sonia, right? So, and she's saying Jesus. So Jesus, Son of God. Jesus, Son of God. What do Christians and Catholics do on Sundays? Is they worship Jesus on Sundays, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that right off the bat, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And then my point was they worship at Mass on Sundays. So Sonia Massie, you worship the Son at Mass on Sunday, worshiping Jesus, who's the Son, right? So for me, that was the biggest part of it. Shout out to Spiritual Shade Room. They had a great post about a lot more about that whole thing and how it was essentially an initiation ritual for whoever. But yeah, there was a very interesting part. He pointed out that in the very beginning of that footage, the witness cop, right? The other cop that's in the background, you don't see his face. But before Sonia even goes to the kitchen, she's sitting on the couch, and then the witness cop reaches his forearm over to like point at something, and it shows this glaring compass. So there was a big part about that with his post, and I can't speak to it confidently, but yeah, there's a lot to it. But yeah, so we saw that. That's just my 2 cents on it. Sonia Massie, you worship the Son at Mass on Sunday, and she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," before she reportedly gets killed. So
yeah, that's
pretty
good.
You know.
Yeah, I see that. that's good.
Yeah, I didn't even do actually. Gematria wise, what was really interesting was the shooter's name. It was what was it? Doesn't matter. Go look up the shooter's name, first and last name, and then punch it in with Donald Trump. Perfect match, grand slam match. So the timing of that whole story is super interesting because Trump, he either got shot right before or right after that story.
Was it Sean Grayson? Is it Sean Grayson?
Yep. Yeah. So type in Sean Grayson and then type in Donald Trump. Grand slam match.
All right, let's share my screen.
Yeah. And that I mean, that transitions into all this political stuff, you know?
So we got Sean Grayson. Oh, wow. Yeah, you're right. Wow.
So,
nice.
so you got the white shooter shooting the black woman right after white boy Donald Trump gets shot, and then Joe Biden steps down, and then enter in, hopefully for people, the first black woman president, and a black woman gets shot by a guy who has the exact overlap gematria of Donald Trump, who just got shot in the ear. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Oh yeah, there you go, Sean Grayson. So even though his last name has son in it too. So yeah, there you go. Grayson shoots Sonia Massie. You worship the Son at Mass. You worship Jesus, and she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." You know what I'm saying? Like that's I don't feel like you need to go much deeper than that.
and then you've pointed out too that Sean means God is gracious, right?
Yes. Yeah. You and I talked about that in one of our other read-throughs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So God is gracious. Grayson shoots Sonia. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's all in the words, and
Yeah.
it's right in your face. You don't even need to know the gematria, but if you want to see the numbers, I mean, how amazing is that? Sean Grayson and Donald Trump just so happened to have a grand slam match, and they both just so happen to be involved in shootings within like a week of each other. Not even. It was like a couple days apart.
Yeah. Well. And it's
Oh,
funny because
here's
Grayson
another one.
almost sounds like gracious.
Here's another one. Where did that shooting take place?
I don't even. That's all. I didn't look into it. Where did it take place?
Go search it right now, just for anybody watching. Check this out. I'm almost positive. I might stand corrected, but yeah, just look up like where was the Sonia Massie shooting?
Illinois.
Yeah, but where?
At her house.
It. Well, yeah, at her house, but like where in Illinois?
Oh,
they're not showing it in this one. I'm almost positive it was in Springfield, Illinois.
Oh, really?
I see it.
Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So after, okay. So look, why does that matter? Just think about that for a second. And the hint is Kamala Harris. R Jelly. It wasn't a YouTube channel. It was a Instagram account that I follow. I believe it's called The Spiritual Shade Room. I only follow about 90 accounts, so if you jumped into my followers list, you should find it, but I'm nearly positive it's titled The Spiritual Shade Room 1, I think. But anyways.
Wait, so okay, so
you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this connection, dude. Like, why does this matter with everything we were just talking about? Why does the location matter? Springfield.
Ruin it for me.
At the end of the day, it's probably just because you're not a Simpsons fan. I never was either. But The Simpsons takes place in Springfield.
Oh no, I get it. Oh my god, now I get it.
So, well, where am I going with this?
Yep. Do you want me to answer?
Yeah.
So the day of the shooting, well, shortly after, that's when Joe Biden stepped down, Kamala Harris stepped up, and then all the memes, like even mainstream, started finding like that connection with Lisa Simpson and Kamala Harris when they were in the purple. Kamala Harris is wearing the purple at the inauguration of Joe Biden. I could just find the picture. But anyways, we're talking about the Simpsons, right? So yeah,
right. Once again, I'm no Simpsons expert, but I do know, like, you could just Google search where does the Simpsons take place? It takes place in Springfield. So this shooting took place in Springfield. And another thing I want to just point out is I remember the date now. If you look at the timestamp of that footage, it was on July 6th, George Bush's birthday. Okay. So that there's that presidential connection there. There's also the skull and bones connection there too, because the shooter, Sean Grayson, has skulls on his mugshot on his arm, like tattooed on his arm. But my main point is that nobody saw this footage. Nobody heard about this until after Trump got shot. But this happened a week before. Week before. Nobody saw, like, this story did not exist, even though it happened a week before. And then Trump gets shot in the ear, and then we see this story like 3 days later. You know what I mean? Why did it take that long for it to, like, it took place a week before. We don't hear anything about it. Then Trump gets shot in the ear. He's stepping down. Kamala's stepping in, and then this news comes out all at the same time with the whole Springfield connection. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
That's weird. That's weird that they would.
Like, here, but click on Sean Grayson's mugshot, like his full photo. You'll see, if you can see his arm, it'll show you he's got skulls smacked right on his bicep.
Oh man!
Just Google search, Because once again, this took place on 7/6, and Bones
Just hit
equals
Google.
7/6. Yeah, just type in Sean Grayson mugshot. There you go. Images, boom.
Is it on the? Oh, right here. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And then just get a little zoom in on his arm there. You'll see he's got the skulls blasted right on his fucking
Oh wow!
arm.
Of course, that's me blocking it. Yeah, it's kind of faint.
Yeah,
but you can see it.
it's there, you guys. I mean, yeah. So I mean that's my recap on it. Sean Grayson, perfect overlap with Donald Trump in Gematria. He shoots a black woman. Donald Trump gets shot a week later. The news doesn't come out until after Trump gets shot. At that same time, Biden steps down. Enter Kamala Harris, first black woman potential president. This takes place in Springfield, where The Simpsons takes place. And then you got all the Simpsons conspiracy stuff between, Lisa Simpson and Kamala.
Yeah. And then like Kimberly said, like if you didn't already say it, but I mean,
Yep. Yeah. Same day the Guidestones came down. That came down on George Bush's 76th birthday on 7/6. Skull and Bones equals 76 back in 2022. Yep, absolutely. And then Doom said, "Do you see the pyramids on his shirt?" Right. So it's like he's got the pyramids on the front. He's got his skull tattoo. I mean, come on, guys. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. Son, Sonia, Grayson, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, who's the Son. You know what I'm saying? You worship the Son or Jesus at Mass, Sonia Massie on Sunday. See what I'm saying? That's about it for me on that. I was working on a post and I was just like, oh man, this is just gonna get, I don't know. It was almost too deep where I was like, I don't think too many people are gonna pick up everything. But
yeah, because I feel like I guess like the way that your work has been as of late, it's cool because it's really lighthearted. It really is like lighthearted. Yeah. Like, and that's like, to take work like this, which is like just it's pretty heavy, like this kind of truth, but being able to turn it into something lighthearted like the way that you do, that's like very, very talented, like that's another level, So
I really appreciate that. Yeah, because I mean, you and I have talked a lot about, lighthearted is one word. I think another one that we've talked about is like, I want to show like how beautiful this knowledge is. And there's a lot to be said about, it's extremely dark at times, but you got to find ways to like smile in the face of adversity, right? And smile when it's dark, right? And it's not about, we don't do this once again to theorize about who's doing this, why are they doing it. We're here to really, with open eyes and, gawking eyes in a way of being like, isn't this incredible? Like how this is all unfolding, So I think that was a good opening topic, honestly. And I think it'll probably segue well into our read through because once again, this is an election season. And that's kind of how I actually open up this book. And it ties right back into the beginning of this story, which once again ties into the other, books that we've talked about. But I do open this book talking about when the Texas Rangers won the World Series last year and how these presidential themes have just been nonstop. And then it started getting kind of cute. I started realizing how much this had to do with Lucky Charms and how every Lucky Charms in the cereal is being portrayed in this story. And, it's fun, it's dark, it's exciting, but doesn't that make for a great movie, where you can laugh, you can cry, you can get scared, feel good, feel bad all at the same time, and then walk out of it being like, wow, that was interesting. Because the other thing I'll say, and you and I've talked about this, man, no one's talking about this Lucky Charms stuff. And a lot of people will be like, this is dumb. Lucky Charms, what the fuck? Who gives a shit? And it's like, all right, whatever. It's not for you. So, I mean, without further ado, should we get started?
Yeah. Did you already show the hardcover of your book, or the hard copy of your book, if you want to
Oh yeah, no, I did not. Yeah, so as we begin, the title of this book is called "They Are After Me." They're after me, and as a little hint for people, I put a little image on the back. Some of you guys might be wondering why would you call it that? Well, I don't want to give too much away. I'm going to leave the reason for why I titled the book this way for maybe towards the end. But it's called "They're After Me," and it's going to encompass a lot. So you guys better buckle up. I think you guys are all prepared for it. I will give, let's see, hold on. Kimberly says, the Most High is the one who decides who will see the truth, and who believes the lies will be given strong delusions. So, yep, Christ is truth, and those who understand it are of Christ.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's well said. I mean, it goes back to what the Bible says. It's for me, I say this every time, man. My favorite quote in the Bible is all about humbling yourself and be like a child. And if you don't, then Christ will tell you, or God will tell you, I never knew you. I never knew you if you don't humble yourself. And yeah, anybody that's just going to laugh at this right off the bat, you're not humbling yourself. So, all right. So let's get started. If we could, if you wouldn't mind zooming in just a little bit, I'm going to do my best to read it off of your screen because things look good here. And then I obviously got my hard copy I can reference. All right. So we're skipping the intro because it's just the same thank yous as I always give to everybody. Really appreciate you guys being here. So chapter 1, Walker, Texas Ranger. To kick off the first strand of this beautiful web of life that is also the wool over most people's eyes, I feel it's best to start off mentioning the ritual that took place with the 2023 World Series champion Texas Rangers, concluding the MLB's 119th World Series on the 119th day of George W. Bush's age, who was the sitting U.S. president during the 2001 terrorist attacks of 119 or 9/11, and also used to own the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers went on to defeat the Arizona Diamondbacks in Game 5 of the World Series, which matters because George W. Bush also threw out the first pitch in Game 3 of the 2001 World Series, where the Arizona Diamondbacks won that World Series and they defeated the NY Yankees, which equals 119, and they did it on October 30th, 2001, exactly 7 weeks after the infamous day of September 11th, 2001, which just so happens to be the day leaving 111 days remaining in the year. And that was paid tribute to in the clinching game for the Rangers last season in Game 5, which was on November 1st, written 11/1 or 1/11, 111. And 9/11 took place on the date leaving 111 days left in the year. So that's how I open it, right? It's like talking about, this is not the very beginning, but this is the start of what you are going to continue to see with all these presidential connections, but I'm starting there with the Rangers. So if you can just maybe just share that image there. And AJ cheating on Uncle Yoey. That's funny.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So any thoughts on that?
It's a pretty strong way to start the book, I must say.
I mean, there's a lot just on that first page. Like, seriously, It's like, okay, 119, 9/11, George Bush, Rangers, Diamondbacks. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll keep it moving. So this is just an image to show you. This is an image of when Bush used to own the Rangers, right? Up on the top there. And then on the right, that's the clip of Bush throwing out the pitch. Apparently he was all, bulletproof vest and all that after 9/11, throwing out the opening pitch for Game 3. And that was with the Yankees and the Diamondbacks. And then fast forward to this past season, the Rangers beat the Diamondbacks in perfect fashion. So moving on to the 2023-24 NHL season. So now we're talking about hockey. The New York Rangers went on to win the 2024 President's Trophy. Okay, like if you guys don't know about hockey, there's a trophy that they give to the team every year who has the most regular season wins before the playoffs start. And it's called the President's Trophy. So the same year that the Texas Rangers win the World Series, then later you got the New York Rangers winning the President's Trophy. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I point that out, and then I just kind of recap here. I say, don't quickly forget what we just talked about. New York, 9/11, George Bush, sitting president during 9/11, the Texas Rangers. And don't overlook either that the New York Rangers and the Texas Rangers share the exact same colors. And the New York Rangers were originally founded by Tex Rickard, while the Texas Rangers were once owned by George W. Bush and his daddy, Bush Sr. Right? So just adding another little flair, another little layer to it. You know, it wasn't just about the Texas Rangers. We have the New York Rangers involved with this ritual as well, because the New York Rangers won this President's Trophy after the Texas Rangers won the World Series, concluding the baseball's 119th season on the 119th day of George Bush's age.
Very interesting. So just really emphasizing the
president theme. It's like, you know, so maybe that this is truly where this kind of started. I was like, okay, there's like, I mean, it's an election year. It makes a lot of sense for these things to start trickling down, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So we keep it moving. Speaking of the Bush family, take note that the W initial in their middle name stands for Walker, which is very intriguing for a multitude of reasons. In light of what we've discussed thus far, this conveniently segues into two specific topics that interconnect perfectly within this spiderweb laid out before us every day. First is the death of Paul Walker in a red Porsche, famously known for his Fast and Furious movies. He also once starred in the movie The Skulls in 2000, specifically based on the Skull and Bones secret society headquartered at Yale University. In this movie, as a gift of becoming part of the secret society, his character, Caleb Mondrake, is awarded a red Porsche. So for me, like this is a great mini example that I love sharing with people. It's like, oh, really? So we're about to get to George H.W. Bush and how this matters, but like just right off the bat, oh, really? So you mean to tell me it's not weird that Paul Walker, Mr. Fast and Furious, dies in a car crash from what he's most known for, but then you reel back even farther and you go, look at this movie, The Skulls. Look, so it's kind of hard to see, but if you scroll down, yeah, right there. Sorry, up a little bit, yeah. If you zoom in a little bit more, if you could. You'll see obviously the red Porsche, but on the white part, it's a label that just says Caleb Mandrake, which is his character. So this is part of the scene of the movie when they get initiated. And then as a reward for making it into the secret society, his character, Caleb Mandrake, right there, standing right in front of it, smiling. He gets awarded a red Porsche. And then of course, some of the other guys get awarded other cars, but really? Why didn't Caleb Mandrake get the yellow one? Right? Because then when you scroll down a little bit more, there you go. See? Yeah. Oh. Scroll up to see the headline there. Oh. Really both, yeah. Fast and Furious actor suffered major burns and trauma injuries when Porsche was traveling and crashed in LA, coroner says. So, I mean, that right off the bat, man, you've got to be kidding me.
I know.
I mean, I remember when Paul Walker died, and like I was never into the Fast and Furious movies, but I was just like, I even then I was like, oh, ooh, that's kind of eerie. Like Mr. Fast and Furious, like you don't even need to watch the movies. Most people, when they see Paul Walker, they think, you know, fast racing cars and stuff, and then he dies in a car crash.
Yeah, I know. If we were into this stuff at the time, like we would have been like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah, dude. I mean, it makes me think about the people that were awake, seeing what we're seeing even at that time, you know? And anyways, so yeah, let's keep rushing, then we'll take a break for a second. But the reason why this ties into the presidential connections once again, remember, we're talking about Texas Rangers, New York Rangers, presidency, George Bush. George Bush and his daddy were both members of Skull and Bones. Now, so I wrote here, they both graduated from Yale Skull and Bones, and Paul Walker died the same day that George H.W. Bush died 5 years prior. Meaning not the same day in history, not the same year, but the exact same date, 5 years later, George H.W. Bush, former owner of the Texas Rangers, dies on the same freaking day that Paul Walker died, who was in the movie The Skulls, who was awarded a red Porsche, and he died in a red Porsche. See? So, brushing through this real quick.
Well, I wanted to say something real fast. Did you ever think how interesting it was, like how he died in 13 and then he died in 18 and, you know, like
Revelation 13, 18? No, I did not. Nope, I did not. Did not think about that. That's that lens that I envy about you, bro. Like, you know, the last video I shared with you last night when we were talking about Trump and the, you know, assassination stuff just blew my mind about the 2137 being the 322nd prime. I was like, dude.
Oh, yeah.
But no, so no, I didn't look into that. I can assure you that there's a lot more to that. But once again, you know, for me, this goes back to trying to keep it as simple as possible, where it's like, really, Paul Walker dies this 5 years before George H. Walker Bush dies, right? I want to emphasize that. Paul Walker and George Walker Bush. That's what the W is, you guys. And George Walker Bush and Sr. are both members of Skull and Bones. Paul Walker in the movie The Skulls dies in a red. We get it.
Yeah, so. It's crazy because it's like there's so much.
Like, there's so much. But it's so simple. It's so maybe it's simple for me because like I've you know, I've looked at it for so long, but it's like, dude, Paul Walker, Texas Ranger, which we haven't gotten into yet. That's the title of this chapter. George Walker Bush, The Skull and Bones. Let's not forget, right now as we speak, and as I wrote this book, Yale is currently 322 years old, and Skull and Bones represents themselves by the number 322. So, like, this is a perfect time to be bringing this up.
Yeah.
So, moving on. Yeah, so the other twofer here that this is where I'm tying up chapter 1. I say next on the list is a television show called Walker, Texas Ranger. Are you familiar with that show, Son? I mean, I wouldn't expect you to have watched it. I never did, but have you ever heard of that show?
Dude, I have to admit, like that show actually was a big part of my childhood because
really,
my grandma loved that show and she watched it all the time. Yeah, so I was very
probably pulling like at a personal heartstring for you a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you know all about Chuck Norris. I mean, for me growing up, I never watched Walker, Texas Ranger, but I just remember there was a gnarly phase growing up. I don't even remember how old I was, but do you remember like just the running jokes about like Chuck Norris?
Yeah, those are so funny. I remember
it was about like just how perfect he is and how like, you know, like, yeah. And so anyways, that's all I can really say about that. But this is so relevant because it's like, okay, we just talked about what? George Walker Bush, Jr. and Sr., Paul Walker. We talked about the Texas Rangers. So now I'm segueing into Walker, Texas Ranger, right? Doing my best to keep this as simple as I can. And it really is because I would think that we have not gone very deep at all. We're just floating on the top of the water right now, looking around. So, you know, yeah. So Walker, Texas Rangers starring Chuck Norris. George H. Walker Bush was born on the date leaving 202 days remaining in the year. And his son was born on July 6th, the date written 7/6. Well, that matters because when you type out Skull and Bones in the reverse ciphers, it equals 202 and 76. So literally, son and daddy got their 202 and 76 on their birthdays, smacked right into just the word Skull and Bones. And then when you type out Walker, Texas Ranger, do it the front ways, you got 202 and 76.
Wow.
You know, like, I don't have much else to say about that other than, okay, besides the obvious of Walker, Texas Ranger, etc. But now we got a gematria example, just overlapping perfectly with everything we talked about with Skull and Bones, Walker, Texas Ranger, and the presidency, George Bush, right? So I wrap it up by two interesting tidbits here about Walker, Texas Ranger, and the World Series last year. So check this out, you guys. I said this further amplifies what's been mentioned in my prior books, touching on why the Georgia Guidestones, shout out to, I think it was Kimberly in the comments talking about, when they were unveiled on March 22nd, 1980, the date written 322. We already talked about how that's the Skull and Bones number. And they were destroyed on 7/6 on George Bush's 76th birthday. And as you can see on the screen, Skull and Bones equals 76. Now, the next paragraph there, Sean, if you can scroll a little bit. I said, as for Mr. Walker, Texas Ranger himself, Carlos Chuck Norris, it's worth pointing out that game one of last year's World Series, you guys, took place exactly 161 days after the anniversary of the last aired episode of that show. And that matters because Carlos Norris, which is Chuck Norris's actual name, equals 161 in the simplest cipher. And then when you include the end date, you could also say that game one was on the 162nd day of his age, which is a massive baseball number, you guys. There are 162 regular season games in Major League Baseball. Why do you think that is? Well, maybe because Major League Baseball and baseball alone, forwards and backwards, equals 162. See what I'm saying? So, yes. So, this image is going to explain it. So, if you scroll up just a little bit.
To the...
Yeah, show the top part of the image. So, on the left there, right? The Final Showdown. That was the name of the very last episode of Walker, Texas Ranger, right? May 19th. Mm-hmm. I measured that from game one of last year's World Series. It was 161 days. Simplest cipher, Carlos Norris equals 161. And I was looking into that because I was like, oh, Texas Rangers, I'm thinking of Walker, Texas Ranger. I'm going to look into that. And I go, oh, what are the odds? Carlos's actual name, perfect alignment, simplest cipher for game one. Like that right off the bat could have been hinting to you guys that they were going to win. But then once again, it's easy for you to understand this and hopefully a lot of the people watching, but you can also say it was the 162nd day of his age. So when you scroll down, you'll see just in gematria, like how impactful the number 162 is with baseball. Just simplest ciphers, forwards and backwards. You type out Major League Baseball or baseball, you're going to get 162. And in Major League Baseball, why do you think there's 162 games exactly in a regular season? Why isn't it 163? Why isn't it 170? You see what I'm saying? 162, that's a very specific number. But when you look at this, it makes all the sense in the world. Right? And then, if you use the Sumerian cipher, I had to add that in there. George Walker Bush equals 1062, right? So when you use numerology, you slash out the 0. Now you got George Walker Bush back in the mix. And then lastly here, this is wrapping up chapter 1. I said, for the record, game 1 of the this last World Series was also played a span of 205 days before that final episode. So now I'm essentially just going the other way with it, with that final episode. And that matters because when you type out Carlos Ray Norris, 205, perfect. So, take his middle name out. You got the 161 perfectly aligned. And then you put his middle name in. You got the 205 perfectly aligned with this last episode. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's perfect. And it ties right into Chucky, Good old Chuck Norris. $162 equals 6 divided by 11. Interesting.
Or is it the 611th day of the year? Or is 611 the 162nd day of the year? Is that what you mean?
I'm not sure. Anyways, yeah. So, but I think this should be really close to the end of the first chapter. I think. Yeah. Okay. All right. So here's the mic drop for chapter 1. All right. Considering the connections we've discussed surrounding Chuck Norris, the show Walker, Texas Ranger, George Walker Bush having owned the Texas Rangers, as well as the sitting U.S. president during 9/11, what are the odds that Chuck Norris has the same fucking birthday, pardon my French, as Osama bin Laden?
Wow.
Not the same year, obviously, but so I put that right there. 1940 and 1957. Chuck and Osama born the same freaking day. And then I just said, as we move, further through this read, you'll see more and more how, these strands of these webs continue to intertwine. But it's like, come on, guys. Isn't that first chapter? I thought it was pretty simple and very just slowly walking someone to the water for them to go like, okay, yeah, no, actually, if you look around, this all seems kind of weird.
Yeah.
So I'll pause it right there. What do you got? What do you think?
I mean, I just see it all. It's like so mind blowing. Like this, you would never think, or you would never, I guess you would never think to connect Chuck Norris to Osama, but then when you see how it all connects with the friggin' World Series, it's all there.
For me, it's like it wasn't even. I don't. And once again, and this isn't me trying to pat myself on the back or whatever. It might be easy for me because I put time in every day to pick up on more stuff, so it gets easier. But once again, this started with me thinking about, the Texas Rangers are about to enter the World Series. Interesting. And then I think, okay, it's also the 119th World Series. 119, huh? 9/11, 119. So I'm immediately thinking about George Walker Bush. And then I see Texas Rangers. So, Walker, Texas Ranger. Let me look at that. And then boom, it was like, Carlos Norris is perfect with this both ways. And then, let me see what his birthday is. And I was like, are you serious? Mm-hmm. For real, you guys. I don't know. To me, it's really simple, but I want people to challenge me if how I'm presenting this is not getting the point across in a very simple way. Because I understand it can get a little hard to keep up with just because it's kind of redundant, right? And I do that too because I got to remind people don't forget what we just touched on and why that matters, right? So,
yeah, and just just the wordplay, those connections itself would have been enough, to
exactly
to be there, and then it was just solidified with the whole thing with him, his birthday being 161 days and 205 days, or no, not his birthday, the anniversary of the last episode, right?
Well, yeah. So you take the last episode of Walker, Texas Ranger, measure it up to Game 1 of the World Series, do it frontwards and backwards, and it's going to match the gematria of Carlos Norris's name, right? And then if you add an additional day, meaning it was the 162nd day of his age, and then you understand how crazy 162 is related to baseball.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, that's perfect. It goes back to the video I showed you about us talking about 133 and me mentioning how government is just a huge number with 133. And then sure enough, 2 months later, Trump gets shot in the ear 133 days before the anniversary of JFK getting assassinated, So it's like, I don't expect everybody to understand the importance of that 162, but that was just huge for me. I was like, really? This is the 162nd day of his age. MLB baseball is 162 games long in a regular season. Game 1 is on the 162nd day of his age, or 161. His name equals 161. It just, I don't know how much more perfect it can get, especially when you find out that he shares the same birthday as Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, and then I verified what they were talking about. June 11th is the 162nd day of the year, and that applies to all this because like that's the 6 is just upside down 9.
Yeah.
That was a great addition. So thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you for that.
So yeah, let's jump into chapter 2. That's unless there's anything else you wanted to touch on.
Nothing good.
Cool. I'm trying to remember exactly why I called this the Secret Service of politics. I just thought it sounded cool. But it's segueing more into these presidential themes that we were talking about, you guys. All right, buckle up.
Well, it's relevant to because like the Secret Service was like a huge part of the narrative, with the Trump.
They always are, right? With like big stories, and I guess for me, I was trying to maybe play on words once again. That you got the Secret Service that we all are told about what the Secret Service does. And then I got a feeling that there's another Secret Service within politics, about what they're really trying to do. So, yep, just looking at some of the comments here. Anyways, diving in, chapter 2, Secret Service of politics. The themes of the Bush family, 9/11, and the U.S. presidency don't stop here. In fact, it's only just the beginning. George Bush Sr.'s Secret Service name was Timberwolf. Okay, write that down. And he was born on June 12th, 1924, the date written 6/12, which is peculiar because the name Timberwolf, from a sports perspective, reminds of the Minnesota Timberwolves, home of the 612 area code, kind of like how he was born on 612, right? Minneapolis is also known as the Twin Cities, reminding that Bush Sr.'s son, George Walker Bush, don't forget, was the sitting U.S. president during the attacks of 9/11, where the Twin Towers fell. So you got Twin Towers, Twin Cities, Minnesota, 6/12, Timberwolf, his birthday.
That's beautiful. I just got to say, beautiful.
Yeah,
word.
I mean, short, sweet, to the point. There's really not. I don't think that there's anything really in there where people will go, what? That's confusing. I don't know what you mean. If they actually read it and digested it, right?
Yeah.
So moving on. While on the topic of the Twin Cities for a moment, you guys, this is a really interesting part. And this is something I hope that will resonate with you guys when you think about Minnesota and Twin Cities, okay? While on the topic of the Twin Cities for a moment, it is important to emphasize the twin rituals that have been had since the murder of George Floyd in the Twin Cities on Memorial Day, May 25th, 2020, who reportedly was a twin himself. Literally, that's what they say. This matters because May 25th shares the same birthday as the sitting senator of Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar, to the date of writing this book, as well as the current head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell. So right now, as we speak, the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings and their senator have the same birthday that George Floyd died. What a coinky dink.
Oh, yeah.
1 out of 365 days in a year multiplied by 1 out of 365 days in a year is like 0.0000476% or something. Like the odds of that are just insane. Just insane.
Dang, the coach is young.
Yeah. No, he's a young buck for sure. Shit, he's close to our age. That just shows that we're getting older, right?
Yeah.
Moving on. In recognizing that May 25th, right? Once again, it was Memorial Day. Think about Memorial Day politics, America, all that kind of stuff. In recognizing that May 25th is the date written 2/5/5 in the majority of the world, the stars align further when you see that the words George, like George Floyd, George Walker Bush, and Dallas Mavericks, they both equal 255 in the reverse English cipher. They share the same values as George Walker Bush, and red, white, and blue, like Memorial Day, like America, like politics, right? In the Francis Bacon cipher, reminding that the Dallas Mavericks went through the Twin Cities, meaning the Timberwolves. The Mavericks they played the Timberwolves on their way to go to the finals this year. And the last time that the Mavericks made it to the finals was in 2011, of course, right? 2011 was the last time they were in the finals. So this is just showing all the 255s, right? We were just talking about George Floyd. He died on 255, Memorial Day. And just look at that. George Walker Bush, 255. George Walker Bush, 255. And Francis, just like red, white, and blue, just like Dallas Mavericks. And the Dallas Mavericks had to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves to go to the finals. That was the last team they had to play before they went to the finals. See what I'm saying? This all happened after the Walker Texas Rangers won the World Series. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's interesting too how Dallas has the Twin Towers in their name.
That Dallas has the dude, we're about to get into that. That actually I did not touch on that. The double L in there, I did not touch on that at all. But thank you for adding that.
Oh, it's interesting too because like right on the outside is like the AA, like American Airlines.
Yes, and we're gonna touch on that too. Wow! Oh my God, bro. And then there's the whole thing with like Top Gun Maverick. Remember that plane crash that happened? It was a Dallas air show. We're going to touch on that too in a little bit.
And then the top shooting.
Well, yeah. And then JFK shot in Dallas. Like, come on. So here we go. And this is a big shout out to Rambo right here. This is a big shout out to Rambo. Because I ping things back and forth with you, just like with him. And as you guys share insight and stuff, right? I'll be the first to admit I didn't write all of this myself. This is a mix of me pooling as much information together and trying to, put something together that makes sense and is interesting. But Rambo really helped me with this part. When I shared with him all that stuff about Dallas, 255, George Floyd, etc., check this out, you guys. I said for another twin example in the Twin Cities, rewind back to the 2021/2022 St. Peter's Peacocks, who became men's college basketball's Cinderella story a year after George Floyd's death. So the Peacocks came out of nowhere a year later after George Floyd died. Now, the Peacocks had two players on that team that were twins. Fosieni Drame and Hassan Drame. And what Rambo really pointed out to me, he goes, look at the numbers they're wearing. When you have a closer look, you will see that these two numbers reflect George Floyd's birthday, October 14th, 1973, the date written 10/14 or 14/10, who once again, they say that George Floyd was a twin himself. And he died during Gemini, the twin sign, and he died in the Twin Cities. So for me, that was mind-blowing. I was like, oh, shit. Like they're whatever's going on, man, whether it's mockery or whether it's just, hey, the world throwing other things at you that you need to be paying attention to, whatever it is, what are the odds of that? What are the odds that the St. Peter's Peacocks, who nobody's ever heard about before, really, in college basketball, they just pop up a year later after George Floyd dies in the Twin Cities, and then these two twins sharing the numbers of his birthday, upsetting top two teams in the tournament, and becoming America's love team in the March Madness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's also kind of interesting too. I mean, maybe just a add on, it's a little thing, but like if you ignore like the common denominator in their names and you just look at like the first letters of their names, you get the 6 and the 8, like the year that the towers began construction.
Oh man, yep, year of 68, baby. That was a big one. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I had to throw that in there. Shout out to Rambo. Just to that, I made a point to emphasize how important it is that Minnesota is so aligned with twins, and why they're called the Twin Cities is not there's an esoteric reason why they're called the Twin Cities, And I got a feeling like George Floyd's death, man, is going to be around for a really long time. We're going to be seeing rituals around that for a really long time. Anyways, keeping it moving, unless you got anything else.
No, I think I'm good.
Cool. So what I just further emphasize here, I say, as if that weren't enough, this one final point, this is going to tie right back into Twin Towers, Twin Cities, okay? It was originally reported that Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin kneeled on George Floyd's neck for exactly 8 minutes and 46 seconds. If you guys don't believe me, look it up. I already got a screenshot here to show you. Comedian Dave Chappelle even released a stand-up special titled 846 shortly after the news. This was during quarantine, right? I'm sure a lot of you guys kicked your feet up and watched this stand-up. This specific amount of time matters greatly when you recall that it was reported that the first plane hit the North Tower on 9/11 at exactly 8:46. They obviously changed the time. I think it was like 9:23 now.
929.
929. Aren't there like 929 chapters in the Old Testament or something?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I want to emphasize that this is before they changed the official time, but it still matters. It still matters. I don't know exactly how long after they changed the time. I think it was months, if not a year later or something like that. But yeah, just connecting, once again, Twin Towers and 9/11 right there. That's another perfect example. George Floyd, a twin, dies during Gemini, the twin sign, in the Twin Cities. And he was kneeled on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, just like how the first plane hit the Twin Towers at 8:46 a.m., right?
Yeah, I have something to add on to a little bit. So I just thought of it.
Yeah.
I think there's something to it. So like, you know how Dave Chappelle, he had like I guess feud against the community, the TRANS community, you know?
Sorry, one more time?
You know how Dave Chappelle, like he was getting like a lot of heat from the TRANS community. I'm pretty sure, like, I don't want to get flagged, so but you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah, so that's interesting because in regards to all this, when you think about it, it's like the two genders and it's like two becoming one.
Just like yep. Baphomet, baby.
Yeah. But then it's all just like 9/11, the towers, how it went from two towers to now it's one.
Became zero, became one. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's kind of the whole idea of, what is that? Shoot. You can't build someone up unless you break them down first, right? It's kind of that same idea.
Yeah.
Sorry, my little guy is getting a little
Cooper.
Yeah. Coops. He's just doing his job. Anyways, so I think let's keep it going. So obviously we got a lot to go through here. So I say here, moving on. All right. Once again, keep in mind about the presidential themes we've been talking about. Observe that just months after the World Series, right, we talked about the Rangers winning and, who George Timberwolf Bush used to own. Think about this. The Timberwolves found themselves in the 2024 NBA Conference Finals after the Rangers won the World Series. It's a feat that the franchise has not accomplished in 20 freaking years. Like they hadn't been that close to a finals in 20 years. So like that alone is just a huge feat for the franchise. I mean, only one team can win every year. And, there's a lot to be said about, hey, well, at least we made it to the conference finals. Man, we were so close, right? So, but then keep this in mind, you guys. In the East, the Celtics found themselves in the NBA finals for the second time in 3 years. Okay. I can't remember the last time the Celtics were in the finals since 2008, and we're gonna have a conversation about that later. But they happen to be in the finals 2 out of the 4 years that Joe Biden is in office, which matters because Joe Biden's Secret Service name is Celtic. So of course the Celtics are in the finals 2 out of the 4 years. Kind of like how the Blackhawks couldn't stop winning championships while Obama was in office. You know,
Mhm.
that wasn't his Secret Service name, but you get my point. It's like there's something about, you know, when certain people are in office, you always got to pay attention to those kinds of things. So I wanted to point out Celtics, Timberwolves. The Timberwolves did not play the Celtics in the finals, but they had to play the Mavericks. And we're going to touch more on the Mavericks, but there's a reason why these matchups happen the way that they did. And just want to emphasize that Joe Biden's Secret Service name is Celtic. So moving on. All right. This all takes place during the Donald Trump hush money trials, you guys, and the upcoming election, obviously, where Trump is seeking to become the second U.S. president in history to have a split term. All right. When you look at the Mavericks more esoterically, who defeated the Timberwolves once again, you can begin to see the symbolism and the numerical alignments that explain why Dallas found themselves in the finals this year during the time of these ongoing rituals. And I can assure you they will only continue far after that. As for the connections between Donald Trump and the Dallas Mavericks, take note that Trump was U.S. president number 45. And the Maverick is a horse or a colt. Kind of like Colt, right? Colt. Reminiscent of the malt liquor and arguably one of the most famous military handguns of all time, the Colt 45. Dallas is also home of the state of Texas, a very red, conservative, and gun-loving state. Meanwhile, Boston is home in Massachusetts, a very liberal blue state. So just showing that image there, Colt 45, right? So I was thinking more about that. And like just look at the Dallas Maverick logo and look at the Colt 45 logo. I mean, really similar, right? I mean, just in color and, you know, obviously it's not the face of the horse, but, you know, that with the gun. And then let's not forget, Donald Trump just got shot in the ear, right? So that's just, you know, I wrote this before Trump got shot in the ear, but just think about that connection, another gun connection, Colt 45. Donald Trump was number 45. You know, I don't have much of a connection with like the malt liquor. Other than that, I think a lot of people are familiar with that malt liquor. Like it's been around for a very long time. So keeping it moving. So here we go. I say, in other words, think about this. Colt 45, in other words, Trump and Dallas, that side, they faced Celtic. They faced the Celtic, Biden and Boston in the finals, where the Celtics had to go through Cleveland. Of course they had to go through Cleveland. Why? Because Donald Trump's trying to become the second president ever to have a split term. Who was the first? Grover Cleveland, right? And Donald Trump was number 45, Colt 45, all that stuff. So this comes full circle when you see that the Cleveland Cavaliers, their star player, his name is not only Donovan Mitchell, like Donald Trump, but he wears number 45. Really? Donovan Mitchell wears number 45 for Cleveland. And Donald Trump, number 45, is trying to become the second president ever since Cleveland to have a split term. And Donovan Mitchell had to go through the Celtics, and Joe Biden's Secret Service name is Celtic. It's like, oh my God, you guys, anybody that's not leaning in on this stuff just thinks it's all a coincidence. It just blows my mind. I'll never understand it. Mm-hmm. So anyways, yeah, but wanted to just emphasize that Grover Cleveland, the split term thing, keep that in mind. There's a reason why Donovan Mitchell is on Cleveland and he's wearing 45. In all fairness, he's worn 45 throughout his career, but there's a reason why that star player ended up in Cleveland during this time, this exact time of what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then just shows there Trump 45, obviously. Even further, all right, now we're going to kind of segue into our buddy JFK. This NBA Finals took place while JFK would have been technically 107 years old, right? Some people would be like, it's a reach, man. Even if he didn't get assassinated, he wouldn't be 107 years old. That is not my point. My point is that when you look at things from a numerical measurement perspective, and you look at these kinds of things, those numbers still matter. So technically, JFK would be 107 years old right now, technically. But beyond that, why does that matter? Well, shooting equals 107. And we've talked a lot about shootings and all that stuff. But JFK, he was born in Massachusetts, not in Boston, but Boston is in Massachusetts. And then Boston ends up playing Dallas, where JFK was shot. While JFK would be 107 years old right now, and shooting equals 107. And as you know, I grew up a basketball player, but it is a very common phrase that shoot or shoot. You know, if you're in a slump, shoot or shoot. You know what? I'm going to shoot my shot no matter what. But in basketball, right, as I say here at the end, I said in basketball, you shoot to score. Like, so you do. I mean, you shoot in a lot of sports, I guess. Like, I mean, but let me ask you this. When I slap a puck into a goal, am I shooting? I would say, yeah, probably. But like, if I'm kicking a ball into a goal, am I shooting the ball?
Well, they do use that for soccer too, technically.
So like if I'm kicking and I'm trying to score a goal, am I shooting the ball? Like I don't know enough about that. But all I know is that in basketball, and it's very obvious, shoot or shoot. Like, I'm just emphasizing that part. Basketball shooter. There's a lot about Steph Curry in 9/11 and shooters, and yeah,
because I think it pretty much is in all sports, but I think basketball is the first thing you think of, like when you hear that. You know,
meaning if I said, "Hey, I'm shooting to score," what sport am I playing? I think most people would say basketball, right? Yeah. So just kind of tying that in, some people might be like, whatever, but I think that's very relevant. So, this next piece I'll glaze over. Honestly, I just point out the 46 connections between JFK and Biden, right? Kennedy killed at 46. Biden becomes president number 46. Biden's nickname is Celtic. Catholic equals 46. They're the only two Catholic presidents that we've had. And then, of course, RFK Jr. was somewhat in the running, but all that's a joke. And then just as a side note, I mean, like the fact that nobody's lifting an eyebrow about, okay, yeah, Kamala's the unanimous decision. Like all of a sudden, like within 24 hours, Joe Biden backs out. He said he's not going to run again. And then everyone's like, all right, it's Kamala. Like, what kind of process is that? Like, wouldn't there be a whole debate going on? Wouldn't there be a whole Democratic debate with like at least 5 candidates or something? Like, and everyone thinks that like they have a voice. And it was just like, oh yeah, no, it's Kamala. I don't know. That whole thing, it was just so fast. Like everyone was just like, yep, it's Kamala. And here's one other thing. I'll say this too, Sean. It's not even my opinion. Like you can pull this up. This is fact. Kamala already became the first woman Black president.
Yeah.
That already happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But so many people are like, oh my God, like Kamala can become the first Black woman president. She already did. She did when Joe Biden needed a colonoscopy. He needed a tube up his butt. And then she was president for like 12 hours or whatever, while he was recovering. So technically that's already happened. I just wanted to emphasize that too. Nobody's talking about that. Like technically in history, there was a very, 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 very short amount of time that Kamala Harris was the sitting president of the United States.
Yeah.
She just didn't get elected. But then going back to not Grover Cleveland, but that whole video that Zach talks a lot about. Who was it? It was that little girl was asking, how is the first woman going to become president, and had a lot to do with, well, the president's going to have to essentially step aside, meaning they're not going to get elected. They're going to kind of slide into the position. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Herbert Hoover Library and all that.
Yeah, it was at the Herbert Hoover Library.
And that exact interview was on the same was on Kamala's birthday, same date, same year, kind of thing.
Well, I think it was like she was born the day that Gerald Ford said the speech, right?
Yes.
And wasn't she born the day that he died?
I would have to double check. I don't want to get too much in the weeds on that, but I just want to emphasize that Kamala is already technically the first ever Black woman president.
Or was it Herbert Hoover? Okay.
Well,
so
I think
Harold
was at Herbert Hoover.
Sorry. So yeah, that's what's weird. It was at the Herbert Hoover Library, and yeah. So Gerald Ford in the speech, he said that the first woman president was going to be because they replaced, like, the sitting president would die and she would take his place, and Herbert Hoover died the day that Kamala Harris was born, like the day, October 20th, 1964.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And we can speculate about that as much as we want. I guess for me, it's like, you guys, she already is the first, like, she technically already accomplished that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's just kind of the main thing I wanted to emphasize.
Yeah.
So, sorry, just a second. Hold on.
Well, Argeli, thank you for all your contributions. I'll read some of your comments. So yeah, Orange Man equals 88. What else did you say? Stormy Daniels, funny. Storm Chaser, what's up, Storm Chaser? Oh, I didn't know about this. Trump owns 555 California Street, San Francisco. That's interesting. Oh, wow. Okay, that's actually a good point. So, yeah, I was, well, going off of this, fifth level of Church of Satan is MAGA, and then Trump owns 555 California Street, San Francisco. That's I didn't know that. Thank you for adding that. Did you know about this, AJ? So, like, going off of this, the fifth level of Church of Satan, MAGA, which you know about that. But then I didn't know about this. Trump owns 555 California Street, San Francisco.
Interesting. Kind of reminds me about how Kushner owned 666 in New York.
Yeah.
Which equals 666. But yeah, so anyways, this 46 part honestly isn't that relevant to the majority of the story, but it's also just further tying in how, like, Biden directly aligns with JFK too, and that they're both the two only Catholic presidents, right? Catholic 46, just like Celtics. Biden's, Secret Service name is Celtic, and JFK died at age 46. Biden became number 46. That's essentially the main point there. All right. So, like I say here, at this point, we've illustrated in great detail the alphanumeric, esoteric, and symbolic connections between 5 U.S. presidents, right? We've touched on JFK. We've touched on both Bushes. We've touched on Donald Trump and Biden. It's no coincidence that all of these alignments took place within a year leading up to the election, and it doesn't stop there. I say, when you zoom in even further beyond the Colt 45 and Donald Trump connections with the Dallas Mavericks, you will recall that Donald Trump was also one of the first public figures to openly question the integrity of the 9/11 story and challenge the narrative in a 2001 phone interview after the attacks. Not to mention his 2012 Serta commercial, standing in his presidential suit next to 2 sheep standing on pillars with the numbers 9 and 11. I don't know if you've ever seen that commercial, but if you haven't, you got to pull it up.
Yeah.
Anyway, still moving. Let's knock out a little more content. So this is going to segue into more of what you were talking about with American Airlines in Dallas. So check this out, you guys. This matters too when you have a deeper look at the Mavericks. 2 star players during the 2024 NBA Finals, Luka Doncic, number 77, of course, and Kyrie, number 11. Recalling that flights AA11 or meaning AA77 or 1177 for the Pentagon and AA11 of the North Tower during the terrorist attacks. And of course, the Mavericks play in American Airlines Arena. So we've already talked a lot about 9/11 and, you know, the Texas Rangers and Bush and Celtic. And my God, it's like, oh my God, there's so much. But, you know, we talked about Timberwolf. We talked about the Timberwolves and how the Mavericks had to go through the Timberwolves, right? We talked about how the Celtics had to go through Cleveland and Donovan, number 45, right? So, of course, at the head of the finals, you got the Mavericks with the headliners 77 and 11 leading the show for Dallas. And I say, speaking of American Airlines Flight 11, notice that it was traveling from Boston to LA. Okay. On the day of Game 3 of the 24 NBA Finals in the American Airlines Center, Los Angeles Lakers legend Jerry West is reportedly dead on June 12th. June 12th. That sounds kind of familiar, right? Kind of like George H.W. Bush's birthday. And Jerry West was Massachusetts. Of course he was. While the Boston Celtics are looking to surpass the Lakers in most all-time championships. So before the Celtics won, they were tied at 17. Now the Celtics can say we have the most championships in the NBA. Before that, it was tied between the Lakers and the Celtics. Right? So this is just a visual here, you know, just showing that Flight 11 took off from Boston and it was headed for Los Angeles before, you know, other things happened. Of course, there were 76 passengers, huh? Kind of like how Skull and Bones equals 76 and George Bush was born on 7/6 and yada, yada. But anyways, pointing out that you had Jerry West die during this. And like, he's the logo. He's the NBA logo, you know, and he's Mr. Lakers. That's the thing. I mean, he had quite a stint with the Clippers, but he won, like he played all of his games with the LA Lakers. So the year that he dies, the Celtics surpass LA in most championships. And then it ties right back into the whole 9/11 stuff, right? Because they did it against Dallas. We talked about that, the 77-11, but talking about 9/11 specifically, American Airlines Flight 11 left from Boston. It was destined for Los Angeles. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we keep rolling. I'm not going to read through this in full, but just pointing out, just notice that Luka Doncic wears number 77, which is funny because September 11th and World Trade Center both equal 77. Don't forget what I mentioned earlier. The Mavericks were last in the finals in 2011. Exactly 13 years later, and Dallas equals 13, right? But like, just look at, you know, here's the other thing. Look at Kyrie Irving, right? He wears number 11 and, you know, his initials are KI, which is his logo, just like a lot of players. But it just his initials. Shout out Rambo. He pointed that out to me. He goes, dude, his initials are 11-9.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
K the 11th letter, I being the 9th. And then I kind of segue into here. This is a big shout out to you, Sean. Was you pointing out about when modern Freemasonry was founded, the year 1717. And you were like, dude, if you just take the 77 and 11, you mesh them together, you got 1717, the year that Freemasonry began. So,
and also it's interesting how, like, going into this season, the two teams were tied with 17 wins, 17 and 17.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yes, exactly. Dude. Yes, exactly. So, we're getting towards the end of this chapter, but I say the attacks of 9/11, real or not, were a blatant tribute to Freemasonry, where most aren't aware about the third building that fell, right? That was building 7, G, the seventh letter, aka the Solomon Brothers building, reminding of King Solomon's strong ties to Freemasonry, whose logo poses the letter G, which is the seventh letter in the middle of the square in the compass. It also includes the pillars of Boaz, which is the moon, and Yakin, the sun, which resemble the north and the south towers that fell alongside the Solomon Brothers building on September 11th. By the way, don't overlook that Sol means sun, Mon means moon, just like the name Solomon. So Solomon literally means sun moon, right? Or other renditions of it. But think about Solomon Brothers. That matters too, because Freemasonry is a brotherhood. And it is male only, right? You have the, Order of the Eastern Star, which is essentially Freemasonry for females. But, in Freemasonry specifically, it is male only. And going back to the whole twins thing, when two male twins are brothers, right? So by definition. Anyways, I think that concludes this particular piece. This is where I shouted you, or I didn't shout you out in this moment here. I got you at the end of the book, but just talking about the 7711 connection, 1717 Freemasonry, and then also pointing out that both of these players have the all-seeing eye tattooed on them in different ways. Luca's is a little more obvious, that Kyrie one you don't see as much. Kyrie has been fairly open, I would say, amongst like most other players, just like, thinking more esoterically. And I think over time people kind of make fun of him, right? Because they call him a flat earther and stuff like that. But anyways, real quick, would you mind scrolling? Because I think that's the end of this chapter. Oh, yeah, last piece. I think this is important. So, I mentioned the eye, right? We just looked at Kyrie Irving. He has the eye with, all that on his hand. And then Luka has it on his wrist or his forearm. But the eye symbolizes a lot of things, you guys, from Big Brother to surveillance to enlightenment and knowledge. As the eyes are what bring in our light. And the Illuminati, for example, means illuminated or in the light. But the all-seeing eye also symbolizes the eye of providence in Freemasonry and the pineal gland or the third eye. As we have two eyes in the head where we take in the light, and then we have our third in the eye, or third in the brain, right? Third in the mind. The pineal gland is often affiliated with the eye of Horus in ancient Egypt, which also just so happens to be on the back of Kyrie Irving's shoes. So this is just one example of, him having the all-seeing eye there, not only tattooed on his hand, but also on the back of his shoes. And this is going to be a good segue. I got to let Cooper out real quick. He's getting a little feisty. Actually, he's kind of chilling. I'm going to ride with that. But yeah, so just thinking about eye and light, right? Illumination. Why is it the eye? Why does the eye symbolize light? Well, the eye is what brings in light, right? And this is it's gonna make more sense, you guys. You're gonna understand why the rainbow is on the front cover of this book, because light's a big part of this. But yeah, because the eye brings in light. Without your eyes, you don't have light, right? At least in that physical sense. So I'll leave it there for now. And, I don't want to overtalk the conversation. So thoughts?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up this verse real quick because it just ties in nicely. But Matthew 6:22, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with it. Um, the eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light.
Yep. Yeah, that's beautiful, man. That just further shows like I'm all for the Bible, man. I don't take it literal like most people do. And this is just another perfect example of what I was just saying, and you just further emphasized it. Like the Bible says it right there. The eye is the lamp. The lamp. What does a lamp do? It gives you light. It's the light of the body. So if your eye is healthy, then your whole body is full of light, right?
It's
But
really
people that take
interesting.
it.
It's interesting too because I think Rambo has talked about this, but when you read the KJV version, it's really interesting because it says, "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light."
Oh, whoa,
So, yeah,
that's a big difference.
yeah.
R. Kelly's like Rainbow. What the fuck? Clearly haven't read some of the other mini books, but I'll circle it back. All right, I'll circle it back. Might be confused now, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
But no, that's a very interesting observation, man. Why is this version changing it to "thine eye be single"?
Yeah.
I mean, it just further ties right. Like, dude, if I knew this, I would have put that in the book. I would have emphasized that in the book. You know, that hey, there's different translations in the Bible, and yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Oh, you're good. Should we continue?
Yeah.
All right. So I think we set the stage well for light, right? Well, what are the odds that the name Luca means bringer of light? Right? So I open up this section, I call it the light spectrum. And I say that the name Luca is of English and Latin origin and means bringer of light. It is a variant of the name Luca. And really, I segue in here. So, right, we were just talking about light and the eye and the all-seeing eye, the Illuminati, the tattoos on their hands, all that stuff, right? How perfect that Luca means light. And Luca was the star player for the Mavericks, right? Now, think about this. I said, how fitting to see that Luka Doncic is in the finals just months after the total solar eclipse, when the sun's light was blocked in totality by the moon. There's even a series of basketball cards of Luka Doncic with the catchphrases "light it up" or "lights out" on the front. I'm sure there's other players, that have, a basketball card that says "lights out" or something. But all I did was search Luka light, and then boom, I just saw all these basketball cards popping up.
That's interesting.
Light it up. Luka means light. I don't think most people see that or understand that. They just think, "Ooh, light it up. Oh, I'm lighting it up on the court," like whatever. But no, Luka means bringer of light. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then not to mention, I just mentioned the eclipse, right? What are the odds that Doncic, his last name is 4-8, just like how the eclipse took place on 4-8? A couple months before he ends up in the NBA Finals. 13 years later, where Dallas equals 13. So I say it's also no coincidence that Luka means bringer of light. He plays for the Dallas Mavericks, which is in the Lone Star State, where Texas's state flag displays only one star. Home to the Dallas Cowboys, with the Lone Star as their logo, alongside the Dallas Stars, the same thing. And I say, remember, the sun, which is the light of the world, is considered a star. Also remember that starlight is referred to as the light emitted by the stars. Luka, meaning bringer of light, is a star in the Lone Star State, whose name means bringer of light. Starlight, Star Luka. Luka means light, are your ears ringing? I said that because for me, mine were when I saw that. Because I'm not the biggest fan of this movie series that we're about to touch on. I don't like. I'm no expert on it at all. But when I just think Starlight, Star Luca, Luca, Star, Sun, Starlight, like I think a lot of people's ears would be ringing and thinking of something else. Not something else completely, but something very relevant, right? So just to show everybody, you know, the Lone Star point. Luca means light. The sun is a star. The sun brings us light. And here you got the Lone Star State in Dallas, home of the Dallas Stars.
Wait, I don't know if dude, that's so weird. I don't know if it's been like talked about before, but like, why is the Dallas logo also like a bullet hole?
Whoa, never saw that, dude. Never saw that. But like,
totally
if you kind of blur your eyes, like, yeah, that's exactly what that is.
like, especially when you look at it like in like a bullet hole in like a car, like metal or something.
Yeah,
That's totally what it looks like.
especially the Dallas Stars one, especially that one. But then it
Yeah.
also makes me think, like, isn't kind of a star a bullet hole? Just like any star,
Yeah, I could see that.
right? Like technically, you can kind of squint and look. And it's like they're all kind of bullet holes. In other words, America has 50 bullet holes in their flag.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's just like, yeah, it's weird how they have that with Dallas, and then
Yeah,
like
no,
the
for
thing,
sure.
like JFK.
I totally see that. As soon as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, never thought about that, dude. I would have added that in the book too.
Pretty morbid.
Yeah. So, and then I just emphasize here, starlight, right? Starlight is the light that's emitted by the stars, obviously. But just think about that. Starlight, Lone Star State, Luca means light, starlight, right? So when I say, are your ears ringing? This is what I'm getting to. The play on words of Star Luca may ring a few bells for readers. Maybe Star Wars, directed by George. Remember, George Bush, George Perry Floyd. Last name Lucas, kind of like Luca. Featuring Luke, kind of like Luca. Skywalker, kind of like George Walker Bush. You see what I'm saying? Like these names even are just like so surface level. George Lucas, Star Wars, George and Lucas. Mm-hmm. We've literally touched on both of those names already. Star Wars, boom. Like, do I need to go any farther? You know? So in Luke Skywalker was the son, right? Different ways to say it, of Darth Vader, who essentially saves him from the dark side, right? Like he's evil, but at the end of the day, he actually saves him from the dark side. So strolling past this here, this matters. This is where it's going to tie right back into what you and I were talking about with the hand specifically. But I just say beyond that, take note that just months before the NBA Finals, where you had Luka or Luke Skywalker Doncic in the finals, you had Super Bowl 58. It was held on February 11th, 2024, and it was hosted by, of course, the LA Raiders or the Vegas Raiders. They play in Allegiant Stadium with a sun as its logo. Literally, it's just a sun. There's nothing else with the logo. It's just a sun, which is the light. And they have a massive torch inside. There's a massive torch inside that stadium. And it's lit before every Raider home game. And it's in memory of Al Davis, who used to own the team. But here's what's interesting. So Al Davis owned the team for 40 years. But after his death, the son, of course, Mark Davis, he in an interview or something, he ended up calling the new stadium the Death Star. And that's all in tribute to Star Wars.
Yeah, there's something I wanted to add to this too, which is interesting. I forget if I had told you or not, but with that Super Bowl, it was the 58th Super Bowl ending the 104th season.
Yep.
Father in gematria equals 104 and 58.
Yes. That's a huge miss on my part in this book. Because you actually shared that with me in a text. I remember that. And I was like, damn it. I already put this to print, man. But that's another huge addition. Because what were we talking about with both Man on the Moon and The Hand? Were those same numbers, 104 and 58. It was just everywhere. It's everywhere. And so anyways, my main point of this thing is like, of course, the sun is going to call this the Death Star. And of course, Al Davis, the father, dies right before this new stadium debuts. And they call it the Death Star related to Star Wars, going back to Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, right? Star Wars, created by George Lucas, his first and last name tie into all this.
Sorry, my family's like.
You're right?
Yeah, my family's like texting me and calling me and stuff.
You're good. No worries. So, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good now.
All right. So, next I segue just more into this whole idea of the light spectrum. That's the title of this chapter. I say, as a side note, while on the topic of Super Bowl 58 and the theme of light, once again, this is a shout out to Rambo. It's worth mentioning that in months leading up to the big game, the mainstream news brought to light, pun intended, right? I was trying to be funny there. The online theories surrounding the idea that colors of Super Bowl 58's logo was hinting to who the 2024 Super Bowl finalists would be. With the reason being that the colors in the last two Super Bowls aligned to that of the final two teams, right? So by the time the third year this is rolling around, before the Super Bowl was even took place, before people even knew who was playing in the game, mainstream news even pointed out how like this viral conspiracy, right? They're going to call it a conspiracy. Ooh, everybody thinks it's going to be the Ravens and the Chiefs or whatever, right? They're speculating all about that. But in other words, they brought to light, they put it in your mind to think about that, but with the wrong, everybody's thinking about it in a different way than what it really means, in my opinion. It's kind of that truth in plain sight concept, right? With these secret societies, they put things out in plain sight, and at the end of the day, by doing that, the masses are accepting it, right? So everyone's thinking that, oh, just based off of the color, I'm going to predict who's going to be in the Super Bowl. When in reality, the colors of that Super Bowl logo, this past year, had everything to do with the light spectrum. It was like kind of clear as day. So if you scroll down, I say here that this is what I'm talking about, you guys. I said the media was blatantly drawing the masses' attention to the colors of the Super Bowl 58 logo. But it was with esoteric purposes of subconsciously paying tribute to light, as the colors of the logo literally and actually represent the bookends of the light spectrum. Ultraviolet on the far left, as you can see there, and infrared, as you can see in the logo. It's purple and red. So everybody, once the media put this out, everyone's just like, ooh, Ravens, ooh, Niners, ooh, Chiefs. You know what I mean? They're just looking at the color and they're looking at the team. They're not getting what the actual additional layer is of this. And I just say here, it's amazing. Like, look at that screenshot. It's amazing that the human eye, like what you and I are seeing right now, reportedly is only bringing in 0.0035% of the entire spectrum of light. Rambo and I had a deep conversation about this, and I'll never forget it, man. He just goes, he told me, he was like, man, could you imagine if we even had 0.05% of light? Or not even that, right? Like, not even, he's like, dude, I don't even want 1%. Like, it just to imagine what life would be like if we even had 0.001% more. What would that look like?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a mind-blowing topic in and of itself, you know? Yeah. Just the fact that we bring in so little light. And I think, just my opinion, I think that's why in this spectrum that we're living in, that's why light is so important. Mm-hmm. And it resembles knowledge. And what brings in light? It's your eye. Why does the eye resemble knowledge, right? Like, it all makes so much sense, right?
Yeah.
I don't know everything at all, but like this kind of stuff, it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So keep rolling. All right. Yeah. So once again, you guys, these rainbow themes continue. Just like when Henry Ruggs, former Vegas Raider, he crashed in Las Vegas off of Rainbow Boulevard, of course, on November 2nd, exactly 6 weeks just before that it was announced that the Raiders were going to host Super Bowl 58. Right? So like these rituals were happening way before even it was announced that the Raiders were going to host that Super Bowl, way before anybody even saw what the logo looked like, which was the light spectrum. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anyways, that's my main point there. Throwing in the Henry Ruggs connection on Rainbow Boulevard. He was going 156 miles an hour. 9/11, the 156 prime. 156 miles. I mean, all right. It's possible. But holy shit, you need to have a lot of room to get to that, you know.
Dude, yeah.
Especially in like downtown Vegas. How are you going to get that much that much space and that much traction to like get to 156 miles an hour? That is insane, bro.
That's crazy.
That is insane. But yeah, oh yeah, he was going 156 miles an hour and he killed somebody.
In a RAV, okay. In this car,
in a Toyota, yeah, a Toyota RAV4. Okay, all right. I mean, shit, you'd have to be in a freaking race car, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just common sense.
It'd have to be like one of those cars that like.
How on earth can a normal car get to 156 miles an hour in a congested area like Vegas?
Dude, I have no freaking clue.
That's all I got to say about that. But, just pointing out, of course, they're going to tell you it's on Rainbow Road, right? So it started, even before we even knew that the Super Bowl was in Vegas, which is, by the way, I think this is my next point. Vegas is the city of lights.
Is that new? Oh,
I think that's where we're going. Almost. Sorry, scroll up. Did we skip a page? Oh, yeah, no. Okay, yeah. So that's just the Henry Ruggs stuff. And then next page. So I just say make sure not to brush past the George Lucas connection. Star Wars, Luke, Sky, Walker, Bush connections. But more importantly, in Egyptian mythology, once again, shout out to Rambo. He really emphasized this to me. He said that Horus, which we've talked about before, an anagram of ours, the god of the sun and the sky. In Egyptian mythology, Horus takes 12 steps across the sky. Steps across the sky. Walking across the sky. Luke Skywalker. See what I'm saying? So first in light and then 12 hours or first in the day and then 12 hours at night. So Luke, which means light, Skywalker. So in other words, look at the name Luke Skywalker. It's literally Horus. It's the sun. Luke Skywalker, the whole name is the sun. He's Horus.
Yeah.
Luke means bringer of light. So Luke means light, and then Skywalker, Horus is a skywalker. He walks across the sun.
Yeah.
He's the sun in the sky, right?
Yeah.
Once again, it's not even about being conspiratorial. It's like it's that esoteric, like what you see right there. It's right in front of your face.
Yeah.
And then I think the next part is what I thought we were about to hit on. Yep. So same stuff. Luke Skywalker, all that stuff. So once again, shout out to you, man. Father equals 58 and 104. We just talked about the connections with Super Bowl 58, concluding the 104th NFL season. And father equals those two numbers. Perfect. Because now we're talking, where I say that, just my opinion, but I would love to see a poll. Were you ever a Star Wars fan, by the way?
Not really.
Okay. Yeah, me neither. I just wasn't for me. But I would argue that one of the most popular quotes of all time in that movie series is, Luke, I am your father. Like, meaning I would love to see a poll of anybody who's never seen the movie ever and just be like, do you know any quote? Can you quote anything from the movie? I'm guessing Luke, I am your father is going to be up there.
Yeah.
But that matters because
that's the only one. I think that's like the only one I know of. The only like quote.
Right, exactly. So in light, once again, I'm trying to be funny and cute here. In light of what we've touched on so far, what's not yet been mentioned is the reported death of basketball legend Bill Walton. And that was on May 27th, 2024, just hours before the Celtics would go on to sweep Indiana and go to the finals again. For the second time in 3 years. Once again, we were talking about, under Joe Biden and all that. And, who's Celtic, his Secret Service name is Celtic, right? Well, in light of this whole father-son thing that we've been talking about, this matters because Bill Walton's youngest son, his name is Luke. Of course his name Luke. Of course, Bill Walton played for UCLA, and if you move the letters around it, it says Luca. UCLA is an anagram of Luca. Luke Skywalker, Luca, Bill Walton, the father, son. Not to mention that I didn't even put this in the book, but Luke Walton used to be a coach for the Lakers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then whatever that last point I made, was just that Bill Walton did win a championship. He won his last championship with the Celtics. So, of course, Bill Walton dies the same day that the Celtics go back to the finals, end up winning. And Bill Walton played for UCLA or Luca. Every time I see the UCLA now, I just see Luca. Yeah, and he won his last championship with the Celtics. So how perfect. It was like once Bill Walton died on the day that the Celtics went to the finals, it was like, dude, not to mention Bill Russell. Oh my God. Remember everything we talked about last time? Bill Walton died exactly 666 days after Bill Russell died. And Bill Russell's an even bigger, way bigger Celtics legend than Bill Walton. But then who also founded Skull and Bones? William Huntington Russell or Bill Russell? Yeah. Of course the Celtics were going to win this year, man. While Yale's 322 years old, founded by Bill Russell. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's kind of a side note. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of the main point there. Father, son, Luke, Luca, light, right? And then I ask here, at the very bottom of that page, I say, when you think of the Celtics, what do you think of? Like when people hear Celtics, like what's the first thing that comes to your mind other than like the team? You're going to see green. You're probably going to see a clover. You might see a leprechaun, right? I mean,
yeah,
just thinking about when you see Boston Celtics, what do you think of?
Yeah.
And so this is where I start transitioning into the Lucky Charms, right? This is what I see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I see a leprechaun, but so, I say here, most would probably say a clover, a leprechaun, and rightfully so. Where these light patterns continue even deeper is when you see yet again another connection between Luka Doncic and the Celtics. I don't think it's any surprise if I were to, quiz you on what do you think the nickname of the Celtics mascot would be. I'm sure you would guess Lucky, probably. But I mean, once again, Lucky, Luka, Lucky and Luka. In other words, that was the Lucky and Luka NBA Finals to me,
Yeah.
So moving on, and then I say, when you think of a leprechaun, what else do you think of? You think of luck, right? Luck, Lucky, hence the name. His name's Lucky. Lucky Charms, 4-leaf clover. Anyways, so, yep, segueing. Sorry, if you can get the top there. I say, yeah, it's possible. Many people would say the breakfast cereal, Lucky Charms, might come to mind, which is still around right now. I'm sure it'll be around a lot longer, but I said, beyond the wordplay of the word lucky and the name Luka, what makes this alignment all the more peculiar is when you assess his most commonly used nickname, right? Lucky Charms. Okay. Luka, his nickname is Luka Magic. I mean, just go to Google and type in Luka Doncic nickname, and that's what's going to come up. Luka Magic.
When you think about it, it's such a boring nickname. Like it's not even it's not
even cool, right?
Yeah. Luka Magic.
Luka Magic. I mean, what's the story behind that? Why would you call him that?
Yeah.
So scrolling down. Yep. So I'm just showing here Luka Magic. And so for me, what really kind of started spurring this whole theme of this book was right here. It was when I was like, Lucky Charms, Luka, light, the rainbow. Luka Magic. They're magically delicious, right? If anybody grew up having Lucky Charms like I did, that came to mind too. I was like, oh man, they're after me, Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious. Luka Magic. Whoa. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I think the front cover and theme title of the book came from, was right here. And it got me starting to look more into, just the other, marshmallows, if you will, that are in the cereal. But quite frankly, you and I have already touched on like half of them in the other books, right? So I was kind of like, oh my God, there's totally a Lucky Charms thing going on here. Yep. So here I just show the image, right? They're magically delicious. And by the way, I believe the mascot name for Lucky Charms is Lucky as well. His name's Lucky. Just like the Celtics mascot, his name's Lucky. So Luka is playing the Celtics, of course, right? More visuals there, Luka Magic. And I said, yeah, it must be a coincidence too that Luka Magic Doncic also won himself the Magic Johnson Western Conference Finals MVP on his way to go to the finals. Is that a coincidence? You scroll down there, you'll see right once. So there's an MVP award that goes to the Western Conference MVP, if you will. Once they go to the finals. So once Luka officially made it to the finals, he wins the Magic Johnson Award. And his name's Luka Magic. Luka Magic wins the Magic Johnson Award. Okay. What a coinky dink.
Wait, what year was of the NBA was this?
I think this is the 76th season.
Oh wow, nice.
Which gets me thinking, because next year's the 77th.
Yeah.
And Luka wears 77. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Yep, Luka Magic equals 33 reduction. Pretty sure Magic equals 33 too. So we'll keep it going.
Oh, I thought this was kind of interesting too. And Jelly added back to Star Wars.
Two live crew has band member with that name. I'm not sure what that means.
That's
Two live crew, is that the name of a group?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So once again, we're talking about Luka and Light and Father and Bill Walton and all that stuff. Once again, in light, I'm trying to be cute here, in light of Luka and Lucky the Leprechaun, let's not overlook that a year before his death, Bill Walton, the father of Luke Walton, released an ESPN 30 for 30 documentary titled "The Luckiest Guy in the World," who went to UCLA, which is Luka, when you flip it around. And I just point out here, do those colors look familiar? Weren't we not just talking about these colors in the light spectrum? Luka, Luck, Light. Luka, Luck, Light. Light, Luck, Luke. Light, light spectrum. Ultraviolet and infrared. There's a reason why this was titled "The Luckiest Guy in the World," with those colors surrounding light. A year before Super Bowl 58 with those colors. After Ruggs, or whatever his name is, Henry, driving 156 miles an hour down Rainbow Boulevard, Seeing if there was a Luca in the Godfather movie. Luca Brasi, Stone Vito, Carolina Spurs. Vito fears Luca the Light. Yeah. Damn. So, yeah, let's keep rolling. Once again, a lot of visuals. So, I'm going to blast through the text here. This comes full circle when you recall that Vegas is also known as the City of Lights. So just keep that in mind. I know Paris is also considered the City of Lights, but I mean, just look, the Vegas soccer team, they call themselves the Lights. There's a lot of concerts and stuff that's held in Vegas, and they call it City of Lights. So, but
that's really appropriate. That's really appropriate for the Olympics being the same year.
Yeah, definitely. If you scroll up just a little bit, I had that screenshot just to show that it's also, if anything, if someone's going to be like, "Oh, no, Vegas isn't technically the City of Lights, it's somewhere else," that's fine. But Vegas is considered the brightest city in the world. Right? Like you can go Google that. Like, okay, they might not be called the City of Lights technically. There might be another city that's more the City of Lights, whatever. But you can also look at it and, it's not really a debate. Vegas is the brightest city in the world. Bright, light, starlight, stars, Lone Star. See what I'm saying? Sun, all that stuff. And just pause me when you want to. But otherwise, I'll just keep kind of flowing.
Yeah. Good.
Cool. So, actually, I'll stop there because that does conclude this next chapter. We were just talking about the light spectrum and the rainbow, and we only see 0.00035% of all the light that's in the world, and all that. And Luca means light, and Star Wars, and obviously a lot of stuff. But for me, it's just so simple. It's like, you guys see, like, just what's right in front of us. You don't even need, like, how much gematria have I even shared tonight? Practically none. Like, practically none, right? So, I'll just pause there for a second. Any other thoughts? Anything else in the chat that you wanted to chime in, or you want me to dive right in?
Yeah, we can keep going.
Cool. So next segment, where, like we've talked about, light, luck, Luca. I titled this "The Luckiest Guy in the World," and obviously we just touched on that was the title of Bill Walton's documentary before he died, with the light spectrum colors in the background. We're going to get a little bit more numerical here, but at this point in our research and with what's been uncovered so far, for me, I ask myself, is it just a coincidence that Luka or Luck Doncic also wears 77, as in lucky number 7? Don't forget about all we discussed already about 58 in Vegas, home of nearly 20,000 slot machines. And when anybody thinks of a slot machine, I'm pretty sure you're going to see something very similar to this. It's going to be 3 sevens in a row. Why is it always 7? Like, why is it why do they show us this? If you went to Google right now and just typed in, Vegas slot machine, I think you're going to see a lot of something like this. And it's like, why is 7 lucky? What makes 7 lucky? And just thinking about Luka, luck, and he wears 77. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how this chapter starts. So this is where I really start getting into my explanation about, why I titled the book the way it is and how it really segues and trickles down into Lucky Charms. But I said, if you grew up with the Lucky Charms breakfast cereal, which, Sean, did you ever have Lucky Charms growing up?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, it was fine.
No, I mean, I know it's like unhealthy, but I have to admit I did have my share of Lucky Charms.
Yeah, me too, man. There's no shame here, dude.
I love when they would have like the new, like they would add
the new mushrooms or mushrooms, the new marshmallows.
Yeah.
Were you the kind of kid that would save all the marshmallows for the end?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
I was kind of like that, but I did that once and it was all marshmallows. I was like, oh, this is kind of too much. Anyway, so what I touch on here is I say, hey, if you guys grew up with Lucky Charms, I ask, do you remember the jingle? Like, do you remember the commercials? Mm-hmm. I do. But I said, I'll help you out with the lyrics below. I will illustrate how all of these Lucky Charms have been acknowledged in this book, as well as my other 2 prior, The Hand and Matt on the Moon. Hearts, stars, horseshoes, clovers, and blue moons, hourglasses, rainbows, and tasty red balloons. Frosted Lucky Charms, they're magically delicious. Right? So that's the gist of it. I put the little images in there just, because people are visual learners. But look at that. You got a heart, you got a star, you got a horseshoe, you got a clover, you got a unicorn, which isn't an hourglass, but that's why I put that side note down there. And I had to do some research. In 2008, I don't know if you knew this, probably not. I wouldn't expect you to be like, oh yeah, I remember. But in 2008, the pot of gold marshmallow was replaced by an hourglass. And then 10 years later, in 2018, the hourglass shape in turn was replaced by a unicorn, right? So in other words, like the hourglass is also a unicorn. Because when I took this screenshot of the lyrics, it was after the unicorn got replaced by the hourglass. But I'm splitting hairs at this point. I'm just, for anybody that caught that and was like, wait, I'm confused, I wanted to put that side note in there. So yeah, moving on, unless you got anything else to add.
Oh no, I'm good.
Cool. So with regards to the horseshoe, don't forget what I was showing you guys earlier about Colt 45. Remember the Colt 45 logo with the big horseshoe in the back and then the Colt that's sitting on top of it and all that. I just say here, transitioning from star light themes already discussed extensively. Notice that horseshoes and clovers both resemble luck. So think about that. Heart, stars, horseshoes, clovers, and blue moon. So you got 2 that already really resemble luck. And we've touched plenty on the clover connections already for now. But think about, like, just as an example, there's a reason why Andrew Luck got drafted by the Indianapolis Colts, which, if I had a chance to edit this, I would have shown the side of the Colts helmet, which is, it's just a horseshoe. It's a horseshoe right there, like you're seeing in the image. But I really wanted to emphasize the last name Luck. You know, he was the top quarterback of that draft, and of course he goes to the Indianapolis Colts with the horseshoe logo, right? And not only that, shout out to Rambo again. Where do the Colts play? They play in Lucas Oil Stadium. Lucas Oil Stadium, Luck, Andrew Luck, horseshoe on his head. You see what I'm saying? That's my main point of this section right there. Another thing I would say is oil. I mean, oil, that's a whole other thing. You and I have talked about this briefly, but just the whole idea about the chakras and the Christ oil and moving up and down the chakra system, it has a lot to do with oil. And I think that's a lot why, you know, churches have the holy oil. You know, why is it oil? Sure, they got holy water and all that stuff, but you get my point. There's just a lot there. Lucas Light Oil Stadium. I mean, there's a lot to be said about that. When we think about lucky number 7, I think about Luca number 77 and the lucky horseshoe. And I say that the eye for symbolism will also notice that the ends of many horseshoes buckle outward. Call this a stretch all you want. That's fine. This is me sharing what I'm seeing. But if you look at a lot of horseshoes, a horseshoe typically kind of has a double 7 in it. And it's at the top peaks of the horseshoe.
I can see it.
Yeah. Right? It's really small. It just buckles outward, right? So you're like, oh. So it's like you got that big 7 in the middle. Of course, they got the little clovers down at the bottom symbolizing luck. But then the horseshoe not only itself resembles luck, but even just the bulks outward of the 7s. It's like this is once again another 777 symbolically, esoterically, right? You see the 777, the 2 on the top, and then the 1 in the middle, right? So that's why I said, do you see it? I don't know if everyone will. Some people might think that that's a stretch. That's fine. I don't care. But I'm just pointing out like what I'm seeing. And once again, go up and look up horseshoes and tell me that you're not seeing that in a lot of them. A lot of them. So moving forward. Okay, so this section I was mentally preparing myself for because this is probably the heaviest part. And I say heaviest meaning it's just a lot being thrown out there at once. It is pretty simple, but it's a little wordy. And so I'm gonna read this really slow so we can follow along accordingly, right?
Yeah, and I'm gonna grab something real quick, but I'll be back in like 2 seconds. So you can keep going. You can keep going.
No, you're good. You're good. So yeah, this next section, I'll wait for Sean to get back, but for anybody that's watching, maybe start reading a little bit so you can get ahead of the curve. But to me, it's really simple. It's just, as I read it, even through myself, I'm like, man, people are going to have maybe some trouble keeping up. But I think it's relevant mainly because this is something that happened this year, right? Among everything else we've been talking about. This isn't an example that happened years ago and I'm tying it into today. This is something that happened in 2024. And I think it's relevant. Did you ever hear stand-up comedian talking about the Lucky Charms conspiracy theory? No. I don't think so. I'd love to hear it though. You good, Sean?
Yeah.
Cool. So if you can scroll up just a little bit. I'm going to need your help with this, Sean. And you tell me if there's something where you're like, okay, hold on, let's pause, let's slow down. All right. Because I get in my own head, and I think that people might it might be too much, but I think it's simple enough. So I say try to keep up, because the alignments coming next are simple, yet can be tough to follow along if you're not paying attention. The word lucky, maybe humming a song in your head called Get Lucky by Daft Punk. We're all up night to get lucky. We're up all night to get lucky, right? I think I'm pretty sure the vast majority of people have heard that song. That song features Pharrell Williams. And that song came out in 2013. Okay, follow me along. Whose name eerily resembles that of a popular comedy actor, Will Ferrell. Okay. Get lucky, Pharrell Williams.
That's so interesting. Yeah, it's literally like the inverse.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the name flipped. Will Ferrell Williams. Get lucky. Up all night to get lucky, right? We good? You still following?
Yeah.
So what I get here is that I say that Will Ferrell was called out by Fox News anchor Jesse Waters, of course, at the beginning of this year. When you stepped aside, I said, hey, you guys, this example is not something from, X amount of years ago. I'm bringing this to the table with everything that I'm seeing. And yeah, Will Ferrell was called out by Fox News, Jesse Waters, at the beginning of this year, 2024, when Will Ferrell said that when Jesse Waters said that Will Ferrell was trying to get lucky in his remarks that women should rule the planet. So in other words, Will Ferrell was, he gave a speech essentially saying, I think women should rule the world, rule the planet. And then Jesse Waters in his commentary says, I think Will Ferrell was trying to get lucky. He's trying to get women to like him, right? And I say here, this circles back to my books, Clay of the Earth and Men on the Moon, when I elaborate on the connections between the moon and water, as the moon controls the tides. Remember, Will Ferrell was Jackie Moon. And Will Ferrell made the comments about women. Women's menstrual cycles are controlled by the moon. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So scrolling up a little bit, scrolling down, sorry. Yep, we're good. I say in this example, sorry, just so I can see the text.
Wait,
no, just up a little bit. Yeah, right there. So in this example, there's a reason why Jesse Waters is the one making his remark towards Ferrell about his women running the planet comment, who once played the character Jackie Moon in the movie Semi-Pro. So in other words, of course, it's Jesse Waters commenting that Will Ferrell is trying to get lucky with women. The moon, he played Jackie Moon. The moon controls the tides. The women's menstrual cycle is heavily controlled by the moon, dude. Heavily. There's dude, I got so much I can share about that. It's wild. But yeah, like Jesse Waters, of all people, makes that comment about Will Ferrell, Jackie Moon, women. And not to mention, he says women should run the planet, Earth. It's all right there, Unless you got anything else, I'll keep rolling.
I don't have anything to add, but this is such a good find. This thing is just packed with symbolism. This little instance here.
Yeah. And there are times where I ask myself, I'm like, is this a reach? Are people gonna get this? Because I understand it's a lot, but once again, you guys, this isn't like that clip of Will Ferrell right there, him talking. That's from the beginning of this year. This isn't something from X amount of years ago where I'm trying to reel this into as an example. This, like, there's a reason why this came out earlier at the beginning of this year, in line with everything we've already talked about. This is after the Rangers won the World Series, and it's before the Celtics won the finals. See what I'm saying? Like, it's all happening at the same time. And of course, it's Jesse Waters talking to Jackie Moon, essentially, about him wanting to get lucky with women, and the moon controls the tides, and Jesse Waters. You see what I'm saying? Like, boom, It's all right there. Lucky, want to get lucky. That's my point. That's my point with that. So keep it rolling. So I say here, if you find that the Will Ferrell Williams / Lucky alignment is a bit of a stretch, think too about the phrase happy go lucky. This is shout out to you, dude. This is all you right here. This is all you right here. Think too about the phrase happy go lucky, meaning carefree. Reminding of Pharrell Williams' other smash hit, Happy. So he's got Get Lucky, and then he's got Happy. Will Pharrell Williams. You guys seeing this? You guys seeing what's going on here? Came out the same year as Get Lucky, but alongside everything else, think about how the color green means go. Once again, this is all you, Sean. I should have put a little excerpt, like just a little thing here to say that this is all from you. But, you know, like you shared with me, green means go. And the word lucky is oftentimes affiliated with a 4-leaf clover. Clover, luck, lucky, green, happy, go lucky, happy, luck, right? And I point out here that as a parody, Will Ferrell did a cover of the song Happy in his 2020 movie Eurovision Song Contest with a heart in the middle of the title of the movie poster. And notice that the leaves of a clover are in the shape of a heart. Right? So yeah, right there, I did my best to really encapsulate what you shared with me there. Because I think what I shared with you was, dude, isn't it interesting that like the leaf of a clover is a heart?
Yeah.
The clove and love part, I think, is me, and then everything else is you. Where love is literally in the word clover. And the clover has a heart-shaped leaf. Clover, love, clove, love. You see what I'm saying? But then you and the whole happy-go-lucky, green means go, I mean, that's all you. But once again, I'm so in my head about this because for you and me, this could make so much sense. I just want it to make sense to just the average Joe. Where you go, hey, real quick, can I share something with you? Isn't this interesting? And then by the end of it, they can go like, oh yeah, whoa, interesting. Rather than be like, what the fuck was that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll pause there for a second. But yeah, just shout out to you, man. Happy go lucky, green means go, clover, love is in the word clover, but happy ties right back into lucky. We're up all night to get lucky. You know, there's a big in the heart. The heart, it means love, right? Like the clover, which has love in the word, has a heart shape or like a heart leaf. You know, that's wild to me. Clover has the word love in it, and a heart represents love, and the leaf literally is a heart.
Yeah.
Makes me feel that like there's a reason why it's called a clover. That's why it's literally worded that way.
Yeah.
You know, and then if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that cover kind of parody that Will Ferrell did of Happy, right? So they're kind of mocking the blatant connection, but they're not going to touch on why it's in Eurovision. Why didn't Will Ferrell do this in any other movie? Why didn't he just do it as a spoof? No, he had to do it in the movie Eurovision with the heart in the freaking middle of the title. As they're like kind of holding his heart. You see that?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't notice that.
And it's also funny because it's like also vision, like with the eyes, like how you brought.
Oh, yeah. Whoa. Jesus. Pun intended. Son of God, you know. That's not me bashing on Jesus or anything like that. I'm trying to be funny. But yeah, dude. Oh my God, dude. This is what I'm talking about, man. I might have to really do a read through with you like this before I put it to print, because you've added some really good stuff that, you know, I think this is some good work, man. But if I took the time to sit down with you for, you know, a couple hours, like, it'd have been that much better. Great find, man. Great find.
Thanks. This is also interesting too, like kind of backtracking a little bit, but so Pharrell, his like record label. So this was his record label when he like was younger.
Really?
Yeah, Star Trek and yeah, so he would do like the hand, like the start.
I mean, that ties right into the Star Wars, right? And you know, you got the Star Wars fans and the Star Trek fans, and oh my God,
yeah,
wow, that's great addition, dude. Star Trek, that's funny. But yeah, so we'll keep rolling. But yeah, just once again, dude, shout out to you, man. That was a great addition. Just green means go, happy, go, lucky, and all that stuff.
I want to tell real quick too. So this was what Zenith was talking about with the Lucky Charms conspiracy.
Two types of bits in Lucky Charms: the boring, colorless, healthy bits shaped like crosses, and it's I can't pronounce that. It's this fish. The exciting, colorful marshmallows shaped like pentagrams, moons, clovers. Okay. I'm guessing that was the conspiracy part of it.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Dude, I would love it. You know, Zenith, haven't had a chance to directly connect with you, but if there's a way, Sean, that you could help link us up, that would be cool. I would love to see the video or the post or whatever that really breaks that down, because that's definitely something I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So anyways, keeping it moving. Once again, I'll remind you guys, there's a lot of images here. I know it looks like we're only halfway through, which we are, but there's a lot of images. So I want to power through the talking points. And then if we want to look at images and say anything, then we'll do that. If you can scroll up, I just remind folks here that, sorry, I need to read the text there. Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm reminding people is that Bill Walton is not off the hook yet here. Bill Walton, his death, Luke, remember his son is Luke, all that stuff. Although difficult to find online, I say that reports say that Bill Walton actually made an appearance on set of the filming of Semi-Pro. Remember, you and I were just talking about Jackie Moon, Will Ferrell. Whenever I see Will Ferrell, I immediately think Jackie Moon now, just at this point, with just kind of the esoteric connections with him. But Bill Walton actually did show up during the filming of that movie, and he dressed up essentially as a teammate of Jackie Moon. And I was able to uncover, you know, a pretty grainy image. I was kind of surprised that there wasn't anything else out there of like a better image. If anybody has a better image, please send it to me. But like I looked for probably 20 minutes and I couldn't find anything else, but I think it's worth mentioning. You will notice that their appearances are strikingly similar, minus the height and the beard. And in case you missed it, once again, remember Jesse Waters, news anchor Jesse Waters, Will Ferrell, Jackie Moon wanted to get lucky in his remarks about women ruling the planet. And he posed as a lookalike of Mr. Bill Walton himself, the luckiest guy in the world. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's just like how it just kind of all trickles down about how it's like all overlapping. And yeah, so if you can just show them the photo real quick, I think a lot of people would agree, you know, without even seeing this photo. It's like, in a way, Jackie Moon, like why did they make Jackie Moon look like that? Yeah. You know, they could have made him look goofy in a lot of different ways, but they made him look very similar to Bill Walton, you know? And of course he wore 33. Like I got a whole thing about that. Like even just the background of the movie poster is ridiculous. And then you and I talked about the whole Jackie Moon connections with him and Clay. Of course, Of course,
Oh, yeah.
Klay Thompson, Clay of the Earth, is, you know, dressing up like Jackie Moon, you know. But anyways, moving on. So this is essentially where I touch on, and I actually already touch on this. But yeah, you can scroll down and just show them the image. But let's not forget, you guys, that Bill Russell, okay, not to be confused with Bill Walton, died exactly 666 days apart from each other. Exactly. All right. That is not a coincidence. That is not by accident. By the way, July 31st, 317, that's the 66 prime number of the beast, which is 666, equals 66 in revelation, or in reduction. And it's also referenced in the 66th book of the Bible. But my point is here is that Bill Russell is a way bigger name in the Celtics community than Bill Walton, but Bill Walton is still a huge name, but nobody touches Bill Russell. And I'm realizing that even more now, especially with all this unfolding. The reason why the Celtics won it's because we're in the year of Skull and Bones. Yale is 322 years old right now. Skull and Bones was founded by William Huntington Russell. Bill is short for William. So in other words, Bill Huntington Russell founded Skull and Bones. Bill Russell of the Celtics dies 666 days before Bill Walton in the year that Yale is 322 years old. Mm-hmm. There you go. You know what I'm saying? So I just really want to emphasize that. Most people don't really care or think about like, oh, well, isn't the whole Bill Russell thing kind of important with Skull and Bones and Bill Russell and the Celtics? Like, you know, when Bill Russell died, he died very shortly after the Celtics lost. So it was weird. It was like the Celtics lost to the Warriors, and then Bill Russell dies shortly after. And I think a lot of people in this community were like, oh, man, like Celtics are going to win, dude, like next year. They didn't end up winning next year, but they won the year after, you know? And that's way before Bill Walton died 666 days later. So that's my main point about this section. Mm-hmm. So we keep it rolling. Okay, while the number 777 is considered lucky, the number 666, this is essentially me pointing out Luka and his 666 rituals, right? That paragraph at the top, I just remind people about Kobe Bryant, for example, scoring 81 points in his 666 career game. He had his 666 workout plan, et cetera, et cetera. But, and just the 666s we were just talking about with Bill Russell and Bill Walton, not to mention that the NBA Finals and basketball game both equal 666 in Latin Jewish. But what if I told you that Luka Doncic clinched his first NBA Finals appearance? This is the same day that he won the Magic Johnson Award. The same day he wins the Magic Johnson Award, clinches his first NBA Finals appearance. It was exactly 66 months and 6 days after his first career game against the Celtics. Wow. And now he's facing the Celtics in his first finals ever. Right? So you got that example. And then I say, what if I also told you that Luka Doncic in game 3 of the NBA Finals, he would go on to foul out in his first ever playoff game. So he's played in a lot of playoff games. And I mean, with how intense it got at the end of that game, it was a lot of people were up in arms about him getting fouled, like him fouling out. Like that is so like a big deal. But look at this. I say that he would go on to foul out in his first ever playoff game, finishing with 27 points, but he had 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 6 fouls. And on TV, they even showed you the 666. On TV, like for anybody that's like, oh, well, that's kind of a stretch because typically you're not going to put fouls next to rebounds and assists. I'm like, well, I'm just showing you what they're putting in front of your face. I'm not reaching at all. This is on freaking TNT. Look at that. Him with a smile on his face. He fouls out for the first time ever in playoffs. And they show right there 27 and then 666. Just right there. It's right there. So anything else? Keep it moving.
Yeah, we keep it moving.
This next part's like crazy. Pretty simple, but just wild, right? 666 and Luca. To tie a ribbon and a bow around all of this, refer back to when I elaborated on how the name Luca means bringer of light and how the sun is the light of the world, identified as a star. And Luca plays in the lone star state. This ritual becomes much brighter, once again, me trying to be funny and punny, when you see that the sum of all rows or columns within the magic square of the sun totals 666, where each of the 6 rows or 6 columns equate to 111 individually, and then you multiply it by 6, you're going to get 666. And then I say an image is provided below to add further clarity. Don't forget that Luca's name, his nickname is also Luca Magic. Luca Magic. So to give a quick, I mean, to me, this is extremely straightforward. I know that a lot of people might be confused by this magic square of the sun. I don't have a ton to speak to. I would actually ask you, Sean, do you have anything that you can share about the magic square of the sun in your research?
Well, it's just, I guess it's just important because there's magic squares of like almost all the planets, and they're well established, like in the magic, I guess. But it's like pretty much like it's just like set in stone, you know. It's like we're basically just like observing something that is what it is. And Zenith probably has a lot. He could probably provide Zenith if you have anything to say about the magic squares, like how and why they're.
I mean, I'm not trying to sidebar too much because I am. What I do know is that the magic square of the sun is a massive conversation.
Yeah.
But to just give people a visual here, this is what the magic square of the sun looks like. And it might remind you of Sudoku. But in other words, if you notice from top to bottom, if you take any row of numbers, you add it up horizontally, you're going to get 111. If you do it up and down, you're going to get 111. And then, of course, there's 6 up and 6 across. So you multiply that by 6. That's where you get the sum of the square of the sun equals 666. And I just gave you 2 different examples of 666 aligned up with Luca. And this is the magic square of the sun. And he's Luca Magic. And Luca means light. And the sun brings light. See what I'm saying? See how perfectly, like it just, boom. It's like all right there. It's all right there.
Yeah.
And right here at the bottom, I shared a screenshot. Kind of explain, it doesn't really explain much about it, but it just says here, the magic square of the sun is closely associated with Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And he is. And you and I have talked about that. And, you know, a lot of people are very turned off by the number 666. It's obviously very voodoo to many, many people. Makes sense. We've seen a lot of stuff that, you know, is not good in line with that. But a lot of people don't understand, or really even just they kind of breeze past the whole number of the beast, Revelation 13:18. They say it's the number of the beast, but it's also the number of a man. Everyone overlooks that part. You know, oh, it's the number of the beast. No, it's like, yeah, but it's also number of a man. So can we better understand kind of that duality?
Yeah, like it,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like it really is a riddle, and I think for sure, like Christians don't want to admit that that there's a riddle behind it. You know, it's not just like it's.
I'm just asking, like, why are we not talking about the other half of this quote? Or this verse, you know? But anyway, so keeping it rolling. This next part, I did just, I put an excerpt here to, sorry, keep going. Just to say, hey, as a disclaimer, I'm not saying that, I think a lot of people, they go, oh, are you saying that Jesus is evil and he's the devil because you're connecting him with 666? I'm just saying, no, that's not what I'm doing. Just as a disclaimer, I am not trying to steer a narrative and tell you that he's evil or whatever. I'm just sharing information. This next part, we can breeze past it. We just touched on it, actually. Remember, Adam is the first man on, in the Bible. And we are made of billions of atoms, right? And we're made up of 18% carbon. 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18. And that 18% consists of 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons. You know what I'm saying? So it's like 666 is totally tied in just with us as human beings. But everyone's going to like externalize the number 666 and be like, "Ooh, no, I'm staying away." It's like, well, no, it's in you.
Yeah.
You need to understand that.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to be like, I have the answers for like where we're going with this. It's just like, well, no, like what? Well, why is everybody ignoring the number of a man part? Right?
Exactly.
And like what? And then you just layer it on with the whole story of Jesus. He, Son of God comes down to earth to become man. You see what I'm saying? It's like man, earth, clay of the earth, like, just thinking more about just like man and, all that stuff, dude. I just wanted to emphasize that people need to really
Grow up, I guess.
at least, what's that?
I feel like it's like they have to like grow up. That's just kind of how I see it. It's just it's a maturity thing.
Yeah, Zenith, spot on. Yeah, I've been very well aware of that, but great point. Like, think about this, you guys. 666 is the 36th triangular number. A lot of you guys might not know what that means, but all it means is you add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 36, you will get 666. And then on top of that, 36, you just look at it. 3 sixes, 3 6, 36, 3 6, 3 sixes, 666. So just in the number itself is 666, and 36 is the, you see what I'm saying? Ties right back into it being a triangular number. And yeah, dude, there's, oh my God, there's so much. It's just, I just wanted to like emphasize this part in this book was me emphasizing that like the number of a man is just as important as this number of of the beast thing. It's that Christ consciousness that I'm sure you've heard about, right?
Yeah.
Look within, right? Like that, once again, we're being led to think that this 666 is something outside of us and to think that it's all bad. When in reality, it's within us. No matter what you want to do, it's within you. And for as bad as it may be, maybe it's just as good. I mean, that goes back to the duality of everything. Everything is as good as it is bad, right? In a way.
Right.
So just a thought on that. But yeah, let's keep rolling. Unless you got anything else you wanted to add.
I think we're good.
Cool. So we touched on the 666. I say, with this in mind, these riddles come full circle when we recall being told that humans come from the stars or stardust, which is carbon. So I just shared a couple of examples here, like where exactly do we come from? And, if you want to take the Bible literally, they'll tell you that, God created Adam and then gave his rib to create Eve. Or, if someone's more scientific, I would be curious if there's other theories out there. But I was looking around and there's a lot out there that, people think that we were made from stardust, and maybe we were. I don't know. But a lot of it also says that stardust comes from carbon. And it goes back to the whole, we're 18% carbon, 6 plus 6 plus 6. And it's made of 666. You get it. And then once again, back to Stardust, Starlight, Star, Luca, Star Wars. Like you see how it just trickles up, you know? You get it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we are Stardust. All right, so I'll pause here for a quick second. I know I've been talking a little bit. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we keep it rolling, or you want to just keep going?
Yeah, we keep going.
Cool. So next, this is titled "I'm Loving It." This is where it gets really interesting. Now that we have uncovered the themes of light and luck, we will now transition to how love intertwines perfectly within this web we continue to crawl around and further dissect. As mentioned already in this last chapter, notice that the word clover has the word love right in the middle. And a lucky clover is considered to be one with 4 leaves, which are individually shaped like a heart. Notice that love also has 4 letters. See what I'm saying? 4-leaf clover, love, 4 letters, love, luck, happy, light. So yeah, just to show people watching, excuse me, right? I mean, I don't know, call that a stretch or whatever, but I'm like, every clover I've ever seen, it's literally a heart as the leaf. And it's a clover, and love literally is in the word clover. Right? So like that right off the bat, that right off the bat, this image, in my opinion, is a perfect example of how love and luck are connected, period. I don't know what else to say about that, because and it's not even gematria related, right? Like that. This once again is me just showing, like, look, clover, spell out clover. What's in the middle of it? Love. What resembles love? A heart. What's on the clover? 4 hearts. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to me, that's so cool. Like that's like kind of the most beautiful shit that like keeps me going. And, you know, I think a lot of people have probably seen that and thought about it very briefly, and it just kind of whizzes right past them. But to really just kind of appreciate that.
No, there's definitely
the beauty of like the word itself and how it looks, right?
Yeah, and there's definitely something to that, because when you think about what the symbol of a heart is, like that's not the shape of a heart, you know, like not like a human heart. So it's like maybe this might be the origin of where this shape actually comes from, you know, because it's like where
possible. Yeah.
No,
it's a great point. Right here, I just touch on, with everything we've talked about with Luca and Lucky and the Mavericks and Dallas and whatever. Of course, the main airport in Dallas is Dallas Love Field. And I also point out here that, you know, with the Pharrell Williams song Get Lucky, I just say here, a lot of people would consider that having sex or making love.
Oh, right? Man.
So like just think about that, making love, get lucky. You know, but people are going to phrase it however they want, but it is a common phrase. And just think about Dallas Love Field, the airport that's right there, right next to American Airlines Center. You know what I mean? And then I did just drop in that it is funny that Irving, Texas is just a suburb of Dallas. And of course, Kyrie Irving now is playing in Dallas. It's an interesting addition. Now we're going to kind of transition more into McDonald's, hence the title of this chapter. I'm loving it. I say, when you think of a clover or a shamrock, what else do you think of? For those out there who enjoy fast food, some may say McDonald's Shamrock Shake, which comes around in the month of March to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, which is funny because, you know, you and I were talking about St. Patrick's Day with, you know, some of the other books, and how, you know, Selection Sunday was on St. Patrick's Day with Purdue. Well, with Purdue getting to the finals, but Selection Sunday was on St. Patrick's Day, which was a year anniversary when they exited, yada, yada, yada. But the Boilermakers is a St. Patty's Day drink. Anyways, so we're talking Shamrock Shake. Remember, we're talking Celtics. We're talking green, Shamrock, Clover, love, McDonald's. I'm loving it. That's kind of where I'm going with this. McDonald's, I'm loving it. Love. We'll keep rolling. Once again, just let me know if you wanted to chime on anything, but I just show here the I'm loving it phrase. I'm just reiterating Clover, love, luck, heart, etc. I'm loving it. And this does transition into Donald Trump. And I say here, if you may recall, during Trump's presidency, there's just been a lot of news about Trump and McDonald's and fast food in general, but a lot of times McDonald's. So we'll kind of brush past the text there mainly, but just mainly emphasizing that we're now segueing into Donald Trump and the McDonald's connections. So I just kind of show you guys here, it was even during his hush money trials. Apparently during his hush money trials, he even had McDonald's catered in, and then of course he, as his campaigning, he's at McDonald's putting hats on people or whatever. But even when he was in office, I'm sure you guys remember, he, that was a big thing. He liked to bring in McDonald's and eat McDonald's and whatever. So he's tied to McDonald's. And I'll explain further. That's probably an image that most of you guys have seen, at least in some way, shape, or form. But, him just on Air Force One eating McDonald's. America's man. Keep going. He was even in a McDonald's commercial. I don't know if you knew that. But, back in the day, sorry, scroll up a little bit. I just say here, I said Trump was even in a McDonald's commercial back in 2002. So this is shortly after 9/11. And it was called Trump and Grimace Conquer NY. So just kind of an interesting thought. Here, I just point out, just don't forget that we're in the year 2024. One thing I didn't put in the text is that I put it in italics, but back to back equals 24. So keep in mind that Newgarden, Team Newgarden won the Indy 500 back to back. And so did the Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs also won back to back. Back to back equals 24. We're in the year 24. But most importantly, what I'm really tying in here is the colors. The colors. Team Newgarden has the McDonald's colors. So does the Chiefs. And then you got Donald Trump, right, trying to make his way back. So I kind of point out here the different logo color comparisons. We can keep going. I think the next page shows just another example. So you got Newgarden there. We're in the shell colors, and then you got the Chiefs, right? So it's that red, yellow McDonald's connections. Keep rolling. So we're going to tie Bill Walton back into this. Let's not forget that Bill Walton was actually on a promotional ad for McDonald's back in the day called Nothing But Net. So I point that out. And then this, I really pride myself on this part of the book, in my opinion. When I looked at Bill Walton's nickname, I was just kind of looking at what did they call him other than Bill Walton? He was called the Big Redhead. And I'm like, oh, the Big Redhead, McDonald's? Okay, what else do you think of, with a big redhead? And I got to let Cooper out. But yeah, you can scroll to that next image. What do you think about a big redhead, right? Just Ronald McDonald. There he is. What's up, dude? So yeah, just give me 2-3 minutes. I'll be right back. And we're breezing through now. A lot of this stuff is just images now. And I know it's getting late, but I think we'll hit it soon.
Sounds good.
I'll be right back, bro.
All right. I want AJ to see this, but yeah, Zenith. He says that there's a Batman animated movie called Hush, and Trump said, "I am Batman." Yeah, and then definitely the clown, and Joker. And I guess just a little astrological connection. Like, he was tying in a lot of Super Bowl, the one that just passed, and it ended the 104th NFL season. And Sirius, the dog star, is located at the 104th degree of the ecliptic. And Sirius, like the Joker, like, why so serious? Something I was thinking about. Yeah, if you guys have anything to add right now, it'd be a cool time to do that. Well, there's just a little intermission, but I just wanted to say thank you guys all for everyone who's here. Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect, because it was don't usually stream at this time, and I assume it's probably late for a lot of you guys. So whoever's here, I just appreciate you guys. And yeah, and everyone who's been following, who's like a recent newer subscriber, welcome to my channel, and thank you guys for being here. Tomorrow I'm gonna try to make something after this stream, and I'll probably have a little video kind of showing why I chose the name that I chose. I found a really interesting connection that involves like everything I've been sharing about, like, me and my dad, and that show Lodge 49. Because again, the day that the 307th anniversary of Freemasonry this year, and Freemason equals 307. So on the 307th anniversary of Freemasonry, which was on June 24th, I turned the same age that my dad was when I was born, and that was 1,707 weeks exactly. And there's a lot of interesting things that happened with that day, but maybe I could show real quick. So it was, yeah, when this is my dad's birthday and to my birth, so it was 1707 weeks. And then when you go from my birth to the 307th anniversary of Freemasonry, it was 1707 weeks. And when you go from, when you turn this into a date, and you go, so you make it January 7th, 07, so 1907. You land on, well, you get, it's 30,955 days. And then I showed that the 30,955th verse of the Bible is Revelation 15:8. So my dad, he died from lung cancer because he smoked cigarettes, and this verse is, and the temple was filled with smoke. You know how the Bible says that your body is a temple. So it's very appropriate in that sense. And yeah, so this part just really stuck with me because it really connected to like how my dad died. And well, yeah, Zenith, where's that question from? The is there no hope for is that a verse? Or yeah, I want to know more where that the question comes from. But So yeah, tomorrow I'll be posting a video just elaborating on that. But welcome back, AJ.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. I was just listening as I was tidying up here about that connection with your dad, dude. That's freaking nuts, man. And like that's what I love about kind of some of these other, read throughs that we've been doing. It's the gematria. This isn't me hating on gematria at all. I'm not trying to avoid it. Like I know that is like the most powerful tool I have in my back pocket. But when you look at the things just on the surface with the wordplay, with the colors, with just what's the light that's coming into your eyes, and like those patterns and things that are just so in front of your face before you even start looking at the numbers. That's just kind of how I've been challenging myself in the work that I do, just because I feel like that's the only way that more people are going to be more receptive to it. Because you got to kind of feed them like they're a toddler, Oh, you see that connection. Okay, great. Let's go here now. You can't like just, oh, you're an adult, you should understand this stuff, and then just assume that they're gonna catch on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, yeah, I gotta there's something I definitely want to share with you. I don't know if we'll have time after this, but like the day of the like the Trump thing, there's a crazy like synchronicity that happened that like opened up a lot of connections for me, and it's all like all of it there's no numbers involved, but it's like really like just kind of really similar to this kind of stuff, and everything just it kept snowballing, like everything just started clicking more and more, and I was like, oh my god, like this is like one of the craziest synchronicities I've experienced, and none of it has to do with numbers at all.
Yeah, and before we even dove into the book, right? One of the first questions was about the Sonia Massie thing, and I caught on to the Sonya Mass thing, and then whoever it was in the chat, I apologize for forgetting, but they mentioned Sean Gray Sun, right? So like both names literally have the name Sun in it. And then the last words that come out of her mouth is Jesus, Jesus, right? I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And then she gets killed. And to me, once again, don't forget, that happened on July 6th. Donald Trump got shot essentially, 11 days later. By the way, black equals 11. So that's kind of interesting. But like, but then we didn't hear about that story leading up to the Trump shooting. Like, no, dude, nobody heard about it. Nobody talked about it until after Trump got shot. So Trump gets shot. Let's let that emotional stuff settle in. And then we're going to release the footage about this Springfield, Illinois shooting, just right in line with Kamala Harris, right? Dude, like, so in other words, if I were to write another book right now, I'm not necessarily like grinding on anything. But if I were to, it would probably be that. It would be that whole connection with the Simpsons and Springfield and Kamala Harris and the shooting, right? Once again, the shooting, the shots, Jesus, all that stuff. Yeah. So we left off on Bill Walton. His nickname, just as a reminder for anybody, his nickname is the Big Redhead. Obviously, he was on some McDonald's promotions back in the day. And who else is a big redhead? It's Ronald McDonald, right? So keep it moving. I did point out here, just at the bottom of that Ronald McDonald image. Sorry, scroll up just a little bit.
More.
Yeah, like right here. So I just say, don't overlook that Ronald McDonald's position was the chief happiness officer, right? McDonald is home of the Happy Meal, tying back to the happy themes that we already discussed. Happy, go lucky, Happy Chief. I just want to point that out. Chiefs, Kansas City Chiefs, Commander-in-Chief, same colors as, McDonald's. I don't know. That was my main point there. Keep rolling. This is just more imagery of how much you've seen over the years of Trump being a clown. As we know, Ronald McDonald. Sorry, I was going to read that top little part there. As we know, Ronald McDonald, Donald Trump, the clown, right? So just think about that. He's the former mascot of McDonald's. Apparently a clown is I put apparently once again to be funny. The clown's job is to make you laugh, apparently, but there's something to be said about that whole concept of a clown. Like the purpose of a clown, right, is supposed to entertain you and make you laugh, right? Like the sole purpose of a clown. Where does a clown come from? What do they do? What are they supposed to do? They're supposed to entertain you and haha, funny. But so many people are terrified of clowns, like absolutely petrified. So like just think about that. They're supposed to make you happy, but so many people are absolutely terrified of clowns. So you think of like the happy, sad, happy, mad, whatever. But that was kind of a sidebar, me just kind of elaborating on just that concept of a clown. Like why, like who is a clown? What was a clown supposed to do? And what is it actually to us today? And that's a big takeaway for me is like, well, they're supposed to entertain and make you laugh, but usually they call you a clown because you're either a joke, you're dumb, you're whatever. In other words, it's kind of everything else besides like what a clown is supposed to be. So yeah, we can just show them here the image here. And anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Those are some good images I thought there. Like, I mean that there's literally images, but because of the whole McDonald's clown thing, right? Like I didn't create that image of Ronald McDonald and Trump. I just found that on first page of Google. They're giving it to us.
Yeah.
And yeah, next, I just reiterate what you and I talked about over Fool's Gold, right? Remember Fool's Gold? I talked about the whole Donald Trump thing connected with Batman, and he lost to Joseph Robinette Biden, so there's that connection there. Batman, Joker. We were talking about Trump even being tied into the Joker then. The Joker is a clown.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So moving on. Okay, let me look at this real quick. Yep. So this is just once again further reiterating what you and I talked about with the hand. Golden Nuggets, Denver Nuggets, the Golden Nugget in Vegas, Vegas Golden Knights, Super Bowl 58, Happy Gilmore, Happy Meal, right? Everything we talked about there. And I don't think it's worth kind of re-dissecting all that stuff at this point, but that's what that was about. And then, yeah, just the image alone, I think kind of explains it. Just think about over the last year, the teams that have won their respective championships in line with what we've talked about with the upcoming presidential election and what's happened with Trump and Biden stepping down. Yeah. If you can just scroll and show the image. So Happy Meal, Happy Gilmore, right? We talked about, like, I got a whole book on Happy Gilmore. And then when Sean, within a week after you and I read that book on your page, Joe Lafferty dies, or Joe Flattery dies, And anyway, but think about this: Happy Gilmore, Happy Meal, Shamrock Shake, Lucky. McDonald's has chicken nuggets, Golden Knight, Denver Nuggets. the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas is home of the Golden Nugget. You see what I'm saying? Like it's all happening all at the same time.
Yeah, there's something interesting that came to my mind too. Because like you know how Jack Nicholson, how he was the Joker.
Oh yeah. I mean that was in the Fool's Gold bit.
Yeah, and then I thought about like because Adam Sandler and Jack Nicholson, they're in that movie Anger Management, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like like it's like the opposite of.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, absolutely. Happiness, anger, right? Back and forth.
Did you know about this?
Did AJ cover the Batman movie Hush? Nope. I have no idea what you're talking about, to be honest. I'll be honest. I would love to. I would love to learn more about it for sure.
Oh, is it 2019? Wow.
Hush. No.
Whoa.
I'm not a big like comic fan. Like I don't know. If I had to pick a favorite superhero, it would be Batman, but I am not even the kind of person that watches all the Batmans.
Dude, I really want to
like,
get more into it because it seems pretty cool. Like just like Batman seems like just with all like the.
I just love that he was human. Sure, he's rich and all this stuff, but like the fact that he was a human to me was always so cool. It's like, oh, so he doesn't have any actual superpowers. Is an actual human being. Like that's what I always loved about Batman. Mm-hmm. Way before me knowing that his great grandfather founded Skull and Bones. But like that's why you got to be able to laugh about it. And that's it's just I would still say that Batman's still the most badass because he's human. But no, Hush, I have not covered that at all. And I would love to look further into it. Maybe I can turn that into a part 2. So we're getting there. Let's keep rolling. Okay. So this to me, I thought was really impactful because this was something I wanted to put into the last book, Man on the Moon, but it just didn't, it's something I could have thrown in there, but I just didn't think it made sense for that book. But as I was writing this one, I was like, oh my God, that's why I was waiting for it. Is once again, to recap, before we get into this, McDonald's, Donald Trump, Ronald McDonald, Donald Trump, him and his McDonald's connections, clown, Ronald McDonald, Trump is a clown, all that kind of stuff, right? Now, you and I have talked a lot about Super Bowl 58, Sean. A lot. And a lot of not a lot, but what I did talk about quite a bit in my Matt on the Moon book was the Perry, Iowa shooting. You remember that, right? The Perry, Iowa elementary school shooting.
Yeah.
Now, the main importance of that stuff was Brock Purdy. Purdy went to Perry, the shooting, all that stuff. But what I never touched on was this piece. And this is perfect for everything that I've been talking about. And it has to do with 2 people that were apparently involved in this shooting. This same shooting, the one that I was talking about in that book. So I said in my following book, Matt on the Moon, I elaborate on the connections between the 49ers quarterback Purdy and Super Bowl 58 extensively, often mentioning the Perry Elementary School shooting that took place on January 4th, 2024, just 1 month before Super Bowl 58. Okay. One aspect of those connections I did not mention in that book was that the principal of that school, his name is Dan Marburger. And there was a teacher in this same story named Ryan Berger, both from this school that were highlighted in the press of this story. Meaning I couldn't find many other names of people. It was the principal, rightfully so, Dan Marburger. And then there's this story about Ryan Berger who like plays a hero in all this. And so I just point out here, I just made a little image just showing you guys what I'm talking about with the Iowa school shooting. You had Ryan Berger and you had Dan Marburger that were both a part of the shooting right before the Super Bowl. And it gets a little deeper with the whole thing with like what Rambo shares with me about Mac. Remember, you and I have talked about Mac, the whole Mac thing. Christian Mick meaning Mac, McCaffrey. Dude, this whole shooting lined up perfectly with him, but that's besides the point. But think about this. Let's keep going. Look, why does this matter? Look, you guys remember what happened with the guy who was the lead of Super Size Me? So sorry, scroll up just a little bit so I can read the text. Yeah. So 141 days after the shooting, this is the same shooting that we were talking about in books prior. After that, mainstream news reports that Morgan Spurlock, who is the face of Super Size Me, dies, and Super Size Me equals 141. Just think about everything we've been talking about with like burgers and fast food, and you see how we're kind of segueing into something else, but it's all perfectly in order. I mean, dude, when the Super Size Me thing came out, I was like, dude, there is so much going on with like burgers that like I'm not fully getting, and I needed to look further into it. And so yeah, so you can show them, the news, Super Size Me, Morgan Spurlock dead at 53. Of course, they're going to show him eating a burger. They're not going to show him like in a respectful fashion. I don't know. I mean, but then again, like that's how they always knew him, right?
Yeah, this is kind of peculiar to me. The complications from cancer, like, what's the difference between dying from complications from cancer or just dying from cancer? Like,
right.
I mean, it's just
complications in trying to like cure you from cancer. Like,
I don't know.
Yeah. What's the yeah? No, that's a great question. What is the difference of that? I don't know. Oh yeah, hey, shout out Zenith, Batman billionaire connection with Trump, DC Comics, Washington DC, Hush Money, the movie Hush, right? Oh, dude, or woman. Is Zenith
the guy?
The guy. All right, sorry, I don't know who exactly I'm talking to, but that's amazing. Like, oh my god, I want to brainstorm with you. Please connect me with Zenith because that would be fun. Anyways, moving forward, and then Sean, obviously you too. We can start putting together a little brainstorming pool. That'll be fun. But this is just me. This is just me pointing out Perry High School shooting. When Spurlock died, and if you look at the date duration, I think that's the 141 that I was already touching on. I think. Sorry, keep going. Yep, 141 days from that shooting to the date that it was reported that Morgan Spurlock died was 141 days. How perfect, because Super Size Me equals 141. And then don't forget that Perry shooting had 2 people in that story that have the last name Berger. The principal, of all people, Mar Berger, and then a teacher, Ryan Berger. Super Size Me, all about McDonald's, right? It just rolls right back to everything we've been talking about. So let's keep going. I'm loving it, right? Once again, I just want to emphasize that. I'm loving it. The top of the Super Size Me image. Keep going.
Oh, wait, over here. Sorry.
Yeah, no, just pointing that out, right? I'm loving it. That's the quote of McDonald's, or one of them. And then that's what they put on the cover. But to go even deeper, dude, this is what blew my mind, man. I was thinking more about McDonald's, and I started looking into Ray Kroc, right, the reported founder of McDonald's. If you haven't watched the movie The Founder, it's actually really good. But it's like a really sad movie because you kind of learn that Ray Kroc just kind of hijacked the whole freaking operation, which is kind of funny as a croc, kind of like Crook, the guy who apparently shot Trump. Anyways, but you look into Ray Kroc. What I point out here is that the Perry shooting took place once again, that Perry shooting, which featured Marburger and Ryan Berger, it took place 91 days after Ray Kroc's birthday. And what's interesting about that is what equals 91? Ray Kroc. Interesting. In the simplest cipher. So 91 days after Ray Kroc's birthday, Ray Kroc equals 91. So does Berger, by the way. The shooting takes place, which features the principal with the last name Berger and then Ryan Berger, the teacher. Really? Okay. I don't know. That looks pretty intriguing. We keep rolling. Yeah. Oh, dude. Okay. So this is going to tie right back into Dallas and the Mavericks and all that kind of stuff. But, you think about this. Be mindful that shortly after the death of Matthew Perry, right? This is going back to Matt on the Moon. But before the shooting at Perry, think about the movie Good Burger. Did you ever like the first movie Good Burger?
Yeah.
I did. I'm sorry I'm boring you. I know it's getting
No,
late.
no, that's not it.
No, you're good, dude. You're good. But no, I was thinking about more. I was like, oh, yeah, they released Good Burger 2 this year. Or not this year, but later last year.
Yeah.
So that falls right into this burger theme. But, dude, this is where it gets crazy. Good Burger 2 came out on November 22nd. The anniversary of when JFK was assassinated.
It's also interesting because Leave the World Behind came out in theaters on this exact day, November 22nd, 2023. And that movie had a lot to do with Matthew Perry, remember?
Oh, yes, exactly. So now I'm layering this whole Perry, Iowa shooting again and the whole burger connection. So, yeah. Wow. So, but to not get too sidetracked, I'm just showing you here, Good Burger 2 came out November 22nd, 2023, same date as the anniversary of JFK's assassination. And notice, if you can scroll a little bit more, notice that it's 44 days apart, a span of 44 days, right? This goes back to, my Fool's Gold book, had a whole page of just the 44s. Shooting, mass shooter, bullets, at large, snipers, just 44 and shooting and blood. And I mean, come on. 44 is just a massive death number, execution number, blood number, whatever you want to call it. So just pointing that out, that's interesting. I thought was funny too, man, was I was thinking more about Kel, like Keenan and Kel like kill. Think about that. Kel kill. Notice that that Perry, Iowa shooting took place 133 days. Oh, weird. That's a number that you and I are familiar with. It took place 133 days, or on the 133rd day of Kel Mitchell's age.
Oh, that's interesting. So he was born literally 2 days after Kobe. Like literally 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah. To think that Kel Mitchell is actually the same age as Kobe, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. What? Mm-hmm. But think about that. Kel equals 133 in satanic.
Oh.
So does shooting in Francis Bacon. And you and I have already talked a lot about 133 and shootings and the ears and the beast and, head wounds and all that stuff. But there you go. You got a Kel connection, who's the top two leads of Good Burger. And the second one that comes out 20 years later or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it came out for a reason.
And one thing that I remember the most from, or I think most people remember the most from that show, Keenan and Kel, is when they're like, who loves orange soda?
Kel loves orange soda.
Yeah. And so
is it true? I do. Ooh. Yeah. Dude, I'm a 90s baby, man.
Yeah, and the love connection. Because he's talking about,
yeah. I didn't even catch that, man. I'm sorry. I was too riled up in it. Dude, isn't it funny that Nickelodeon also equals 133, same cipher as shooting in Francis Bacon?
Oh wow.
you know, and Good Burger really stemmed from Nickelodeon essentially. So yeah, that was just really interesting to me with Kel. And I say here, if that wasn't enough, what if I told you that the Perry Elementary School shooting took place, once again, featuring Dan Marburger and Ryan Berger. It took place exactly 109 days before the anniversary of the release of McDonald's Big Mac. So if you look at like when like Big Mac was like first debuted, you'll see it was April 22nd. And then if you simply just look at the date of that Perry shooting with once again Marburger and Ryan Berger, you just measure it from the anniversary of when, you know, the Big Mac was released. It's 109 days and shooting equals 109. Just like, what?
And keep going.
Dude. Good Burger, Kel Mitchell, Kill. Dude.
Like who would have thought? Like
Ray
who
Kroc, 91 days after Ray Kroc's birthday. Ray Kroc equals 91. Dude.
That's so interesting.
Like wild stuff. So let's keep rolling, unless you got anything else to add.
No, I'm good. It's interesting that this was on the 4th day of the year, and then this was in the 4th month of the year. So you got like another 4-4.
Another 4-4, yep. Mm-hmm. Also 422, you could say 4 times 22 is 88, like how Trump equals 88. So that's something to think about. But I'm going to go even further, you guys. Look at this. In case you're not blown away by now, I'll also share that the Perry shooting, I just keep going back to this Perry shooting, once again, featuring Dan Marburger and Ryan Berger. It took place exactly, 322 days after the anniversary of Rich James McDonald's death, who's one of the original McDonald's brothers. And at this point, I'm confident that you're well aware of, you know, the importance of 322.
Yeah.
And then notice the date of his birth.
216.
216, right? 216, 6 times 6 times 6. Interesting. We're going to touch on that. It's also the same release date as Happy Gilmore. Interesting. Kind of like Happy Meal, Happy Gilmore.
Oh.
Burgers, cheeseburgers, Happy Gilmore. You see what I'm saying, dude?
Yeah.
That's the main point there. If you scroll just a little bit more, you'll see that cheeseburgers equals 216 as well. So, you know, Happy Meal, Happy Gilmore, 216. Dude, it blows my mind that people aren't like, how is the world the way it is? With this kind of information, like I grew up thinking that people were a lot more attentive than I really gave them credit for. Sorry, go ahead if you wanted to respond to that before I continue.
Oh no, I agree. I just agree.
Yeah. So this next part, we're gonna blow right through this, but we're gonna show just my main point here about brothers. There's a brother theme that I've seen for quite a bit in this research during this time. And remember what I mentioned earlier about Freemasonry as a brotherhood, right? So brothers is an important thing to always think about. Remember, McDonald's are brothers. It stemmed from the McDonald's brothers, right? Richard and Maurice were their names. But think about Kobe, right? Kobe, we're in a Kobe year, 2024, right? He had his memorial on 224. So that, you know, that's the biggest connection to me about why Kobe matters. But where was he born? He was born in the city of brotherly love, brotherly love, right? And then think about Jason Kelsey, who is the brother of Travis Kelsey, right? So Travis Kelsey is kind of the new face, right, of the NFL in a way. There's others, but, you know, he's back-to-back champ, playing with Mahomes and all that stuff. But this past year, his brother Jason retired, right? So that's the first little screenshot I share here. Like, it's interesting to me that, that happens in the same year that he goes back to back. Kind of like how like twins and brothers go back to back. I just thought about that. Think about that. Twins and brothers, like when they're born, even if they're twins, it's like they come out back to back, right?
Oh yeah.
Dude, I just thought about that. Like there's something there, but don't want to get sidetracked. But where it gets a little bit darker, what I say here is unfortunately, in many less storybook circumstances, you would have seen a tremendous amount of tragic storylines between the last year, 2023 and 2024, surrounding the world of celebrities and their siblings, brothers specifically, if you have been paying attention. So this next like 2 or 3 pages just shows headlines of brothers that are dying, right? So you got Drew Gordon, Aaron Gordon, who won the championship last year. So his brother dies. By the way, he went to UCLA, just like Bill Walton, Luca, that whole thing. So Drew Gordon dies. And let's just keep slowly scrolling here. Ex-NFL star Vernon Davis breaks silence on brother's death. Okay, that comes out. Then you got a golfer's brother who dies. Then you got RJ Barrett. I did my best to timeline this, like put it, like timestamp it in order of when this is coming out. And this is all coming out in the same year, you guys. This isn't like years ago. This is all at the same time. So RJ Barrett's brother dies. Then you got, Hassan Whiteside's brother dies. And then Cindy Crawford candidly details survivor guilt after brother's death. Okay. The brother was 3 years old. Date unknown, by the way, of like the actual date of of the brother's death. I couldn't find the brother's death anywhere. Snoop Dogg mourns death of younger brother. Okay. February 16th, by the way, which we just talked about. You remember that show, That's So Raven?
Mm-hmm.
So Raven Simone, that's that actor. She mourns the death of her brother Blaze after a 2-year battle with colon cancer. Okay. This is all in the same year, you guys. Hayden Panettiere remembers late brother Jansen 1 year after his death. Like, okay. Tommy Sommers, one half of comedic folk duo, the Sommers brothers, dies at 86. It just, the list continues. I don't know if we need to keep reading through every single one, but all right, we were at the end there. Anything else before we continue? I know it's getting late, man. I want to be cognizant of that. I don't want you to feel like you'd be rude if you got to cut it short.
No. We can get through it.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting close. We are. So, okay, cool. We've touched on so much. The next one, I kind of pivot here, and this is titled Bring Your Ass. And I had so much fun with this chapter because it was just amazing to me how funny and how relevant all of this is with everything that we've been talking about. So I say at some point, sometimes you have to just laugh at how intertwined the world around us really is. Laughing is a healthy thing and always brings out a smile, right? I would suppose that's why McDonald's other jingle is "We love to see you smile." Happy, smile, love, all that stuff. And one of their other original mascots was a clown whose job is apparently to make people laugh and be happy. Another term for laugh is chuckle. So think about chuckle for a second, like, oh, you made me chuckle. It reminded me of not only Chuck Norris, Carlos Chuck Norris. So think about, this ties back to literally like the first chapter of this book. Chuckle, Chuck, laugh, chuckle. But then also Charles Barkley. And I just essentially say here that Charles Barkley, if you can show the image, he was also involved in a lot of McDonald's stuff. Chuckle, Chuck, smile, right? And what I point out here at the bottom of this page is I say, notice the bottom. Sorry, if you can scroll up just a little bit more. Yeah.
Wait. Here?
A little bit more down. A little bit more. Perfect. So I say here, notice the bottom middle photo above. So literally right above, right, you're going to see Charles Barkley and Larry Bird. And this is shout out to you, dude. I wouldn't have seen this without you telling me about what I'm about to unfold here. Is just notice that Chuck is having a burger with Larry, right? Chuck Charles having a burger with Larry. And I say that this next segment is not to make any derogatory or slanderous comments towards the homosexual community, but strictly to point out yet another strand of the spider web that we're continuing to dissect. So in other words, it does get a little homosexual here in this connection, but it's interesting really mainly in just the sense of love, right? There's always this debate about, is it only between a man and a woman, or is it between two of the same gender? It kind of rolls back up to what you were talking about transgender back at the beginning of this live, right? So that's the reason why I'm going to reel this in. So if you can scroll down real quick. What's up, Cody? Good to see you. And so this is me tying in the whole I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry connection that you pointed out to me. But this whole happy, what does gay mean outside of being homosexual? Is that you're happy, right? That was how people used it at one point, but just think about that overlap. I don't need to read this paragraph other than just saying that, you know, there was a movie and there's an image that'll show you that Adam Sandler was in a movie called I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry. So that's going right back to McDonald's. I'm loving it. Burgers, buns. Think about that. Burgers and buns and cheeks and, you know, the gay connection there. But even in Big Daddy, right? I showed that image right here. Will someone get this kid a Happy Meal? Like that's one of the biggest lines in that whole movie. And I know I'm referencing a different movie here, but I'm just showing, like, I was already talking about Adam Sandler in other books. Now I'm talking about him in a different movie, but then I just want to throw this in there and go, look, he's still throwing in lines that just flow perfectly with all of this. You know, he could have been at any other fast food restaurant. He could have been anywhere else. He could have said anything else. Can someone get this kid some chicken nuggets? I mean, even then that would have fit. But, like, you know what I mean? It's so perfect. So as we keep going, this next little section, I just kind of already touched on it, just to show everybody, like, that movie. Essentially, it was about Adam Sandler's character marrying Kevin James's character to help save him money, essentially. But just going right back to everything we were talking about earlier. Chuck, Larry, gay. Gay means happy, as in Happy Gilmore, Happy Meal, Pharrell Williams, happy-go-lucky, Luca. You see what I'm saying? Like how it all just, when you keep thinking about it, and then you look at something like this, you're like, Chuck and Larry. Oh, Chuck and Larry were in McDonald's. I'm loving it. You see what I'm saying? Like it just swirls. So good to see you too, Cody. We're really getting close, man. I mean, I'm really touching on kind of the last other parts of the Lucky Charms cereal that's still going on here. And I say here, as most are aware, the gay pride flag is that of a rainbow, right? We were just talking about Chuck and Larry, and, you know, they get married as a gay couple for their own reasons in that movie. But when you think of gay, you think of the gay pride flag, which is a rainbow. And one of the 8 Lucky Charms that we touched on, or that we've been touching on, is the light spectrum. You know, I could have maybe put this maybe in that section of the book. Like maybe I should have put this particular part in that part of the book just to connect it maybe a little bit simpler with the Lucky Charms connection. But just think about that. Lucky Charms, there's the marshmallow. It's a rainbow. We already talked about the light spectrum. I have a whole chapter on it. It's the rainbow, gay, right? So it connects gay, happy, light, eyes. Right? You see how it's all stringing together. Yeah, so if you can scroll just a little bit more. Yeah, I just want to read this. Yeah, so this is just a reminder of what you and I talked about in the Matt on the Moon reading. Was just the whole thing about, you know, mooning and the eclipse. And when you moon somebody, you show your ass. Remember that? Remember all that?
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Knight, moon night. The moon is in the night. See, you see what I'm saying? So that this just kind of reiterates and shows that the other marshmallows of the Lucky Charms have already been touched on, and then this is just reiterating what you and I have already touched on. And so, in other words, I just say here at the top, I guess at the top, I just want to say that now that we have touched on the themes of, we've touched on hearts, right? Love and hearts. We've touched on stars and light. We've touched on horseshoes. We've touched on clovers. One that we haven't touched on yet is blue moon, the blue moon. But I already touched on it in another book. That's essentially what I put right here, right? Is the whole blue moon thing. It's still happening in this same year. I already did a book on it. Essentially, right? So when I saw blue moon, I was like, dude, I have a book called Matt on the Moon. Like, it has everything to do with the eclipse. So, and then I just reiterate there about the whole moon, right, connection, which we literally talked about weeks ago, months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we keep going. Don't forget when you move.
Oh, and then also in this book too, like when you mentioned Jackie Moon.
Exactly. So here's why I called this section Bring Your Ass. And this goes back to Charles Barkley, right? Chuckle Barkley. Let's not forget our buddy Charles. He's not off the hook yet. After the Timberwolves clinched their first Western Conference Finals in 20 years, which I already touched on, right? About Timberwolf, George H.W. Bush's name is Timberwolf, Secret Service name, etc. Barkley tells Anthony Edwards that he hasn't been to Minnesota in 20 years. And then Anthony Edwards, the star player for the Timberwolves, goes, "Bring your ass." And then it turned into this like huge thing, dude. It's like a huge thing because they finally made it to the conference finals to play Dallas. Obviously, they lost. But I'm talking about before the series even started, right? So there was so much hype around the Timberwolves. And I even say here in that second part of the paragraph, I say later in the show, Barkley even went on to bark and howl like a wolf or a dog at the moon when he was asked who he predicts to win the next series. Meaning, I watched it. I was trying to really find the screenshot and lay it out, but it was kind of hard. But I think it was Shaq. He goes, all right, Chuck. So, you know, who do you got to win the next series, which was the Wolves and the Mavericks? And then all Barkley does is just, whoo, you know, and like he just starts barking and howling. You know, it was like, all right. But the whole bring your ass thing is crazy because if you scroll and you show them the images, it'll show you guys like how much they were putting it out there. You know, that first screenshot is from, I think, ESPN. It was a huge thing. And there's even, you know, makeshift logos of the Wolves with the whole bring your ass quote. And sure enough, I mean, they lost, but it was a huge deal for them, you know, to make it to the conference finals. First time in 20 years. And like we talked about, bring your ass. Guess what? It's all going to tie right back to what we were talking about on Matt and the Moon, dude. Let's keep going. Yep. So shout out to you again. I'm throwing in the Adam Sandler Happy Gilmore connection. Happy Gilmore opening scenes. Pretty much lists all of the jobs that Happy Gilmore had before he decided to just become a professional hockey player. And the last one is him being a plumber. And it's him showing his ass in Happy Gilmore. In other words, Happy Gilmore is he's mooning you at the beginning of the movie, you know? Not to forget about Gilmore, you know, Church of Satan, all that stuff. But so, yeah, so this just ties into my point about Blue Moon. You know, well, why does Blue Moon matter? Well, we already talked about Bring Your Ass. It's tying back into a later book, but that book also takes place the same time as everything we're talking about, right? It's just like a different road that's going on, and then all of a sudden, like the roads are merging. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I've shared this with you too, but once again, don't forget about Minnesota and the Twins and, you know, Twin Cities, all that stuff. But when you think about Bring Your Ass in Minnesota, here's another one. If you can scroll, I just say here, we should also think about when Minnesota Vikings Randy Moss showed his ass at Lambeau Field. I mean, he could have done that on any other team. You know, I don't know any other player that's ever done that before. Like, I think that's the only time a player has ever done that. And that was a huge deal. But of course he did it in Minnesota. You know, because I point out here about the eclipse, you know, he's wearing the number 84. The eclipse was on 84. Granted, this pose was a long time ago, but maybe it was a hint to this year and the eclipse and the moon and mooning and 8-4. You know what I mean? Just the mooning, like the mooning action and him wearing 8-4 in the Twin Cities. And it's never happened before or since. You know, it's just something to think about. It's just something to think about. Remember, the ass, the butt, the rump, the rear end, whatever. It's where the sun don't shine, right? That's why when you pull down and show it and the light hits your bum, you're mooning them. Isn't that interesting? Like, you moon them when you show the sun where the sun don't shine. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So anyways, moving on, getting close. I just want to point out here, Charles Barkley. We already talked about the Chuckle connections and McDonald's and all that, but he is best known for his time on the Suns. Okay. And, you know, Anthony Edwards said, bring your ass. And we're talking about the ass and the moon and mooning and the moon over the sun, right? Remember, Timberwolves howl at the moon. Look at the logo, right? We keep rolling. We're getting really close, guys. If you can scroll up just a little bit, little talking point. I said Wolves even faced the Suns in round 1 of the playoffs. So, you know, the Wolves are going to come across only 3 teams before they get a chance to go to the finals. And one of those 3 teams just so happen to be the Suns. So I'm just pointing that out in line with Charles Barkley, you know, being a Phoenix Sun. And then we keep going. And then, yeah, I mean, the most obvious one for me is this one. Anthony Edwards, the guy who said, bring your ass. He has the same birthday as Neil Armstrong. August 5th. For anybody asking, Neil Armstrong is apparently the first man to land on the moon. I don't know if I needed to say that. But so Neil Armstrong, first man to land on the moon, has the same birthday as Anthony Edwards, who said, "Bring your ass." And when you show your ass, you're mooning them. Right. And then not to mention that basketball equals 85. Like how August 5th is 85. Yeah, this next part, man, I really reel it back to the beginning. I really reel this back to the beginning. Anthony Edwards, Minnesota. Think about what we were talking about. George H.W. Bush, Mr. Timberwolf, right? With the 612 birthday, and Minnesota's the 612 area code. So right there, think about Anthony Edwards in Minnesota. He went to the University of Georgia. George H.W. Bush, right? Taking us back to the Bush connections at the beginning, reminding that the Georgia Guidestones were destroyed on 7/6, et cetera, yada, yada, everything I just said. And if you want to get even deeper, take note that the Greek name for Luca is Lycos, meaning wolf. As we now know, Luca defeated the Wolves in the Western Conference Finals. So I just show a screenshot there that Luca also in Greek can mean wolf. So of course he beats the Wolves, wins the Magic Award. Luca Magic wins the award as he beats the Wolves, and his name technically means wolf in Greek. You know what I mean? So just fits perfectly. And let's keep it rolling. We're almost done, man. Almost done. I already touched on this. This is just me reeling it back into why the Celtics won this year. And it was because Yale is currently 322 years old. They are home of Skull and Bones, represented by 322, and they were founded by Bill Russell. Not the Bill Russell at the Celtics, but William Huntington Russell, which is the same name. It's Bill Russell. And then don't forget about the 666 stuff we talked about with his death. Mm-hmm. So that's what that piece is. We already touched on that, like I said. Okay. So yeah, this next part, tying in Anthony Edwards with Charles Barkley, is just keep in mind that Georgia, the University of Georgia, is the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs, right? Yale University is also the Bulldogs. All right. And I just say that this all comes together in that this, once again, all this stuff is in the same year, you guys. I'm not pulling any examples that are outside of the last year that we're talking about. But on March 22nd, 322, the anniversary of the Georgia Guidestones being unveiled, Yale, if you can show the image, Yale University upsets the Auburn Tigers. Notice that the Tigers' loss was 76 points. Skull and Bones equals 76. This was on 322. This is March Madness. That's wild. But then what I'm pointing out here is the Auburn Tigers. This matters because Charles Barkley went to Auburn. So the Bulldogs beat Auburn. The Bulldogs beat Charles Barkley, essentially. It wasn't the Georgia Bulldogs, but it was the Yale Bulldogs. But then you got Yale and Georgia that roll right up into each other. George Bush went to Yale. You know what I mean? Like the Yale Bulldogs, the Georgia Bulldogs, they're essentially the same.
Yeah.
In a way. So something to point out there. And then, yeah, the end here, I really try to pull out all the stops. But shout out to Rambo here. He taught me a little bit about Lucas numbers.
I didn't even know about those.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, have you ever heard of Lucas numbers? I was like, no. And so what he points out here, I'll just read it. I said, speaking of the numbers 322 and 76, both are also known as Lucas numbers. Both of those numbers are known as Lucas numbers. And they're named after Francois Edouard Anatole Lucas, which has the same recursive relationship to the Fibonacci sequence. So it's very, very similar to the Fibonacci sequence. And I just say, notice that the numbers 7 and 11, like Lucky, Luca, and Kyrie, are Lucas numbers as well. So if you can just scroll a little bit and just show like what the first Lucas numbers are, just notice that. Like, sorry, scroll up just a little bit. Yeah, right there. 7 and 11. We've been talking about 77 and 11 a lot. We've touched on 76 a lot and 322 a lot. And so Rambo was just pointing out, like, yeah, all those numbers are Lucas numbers. So, and last but not least, we're almost there. Okay. I recap pretty much everything about all the, all the marshmallows. I keep wanting to say mushrooms, the marshmallows of the Lucky Charms. And I say, as for pots of gold and unicorns, consider that the Celtics mascot is Lucky, the leprechaun, just like the breakfast cereal Lucky Charms. Next page. And so really what I point out here to tie in the unicorn connection is that Kristaps Porzingis of the Celtics won his championship this year with the Celtics. And that matters because he won the gold. And his nickname is the Unicorn. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't need gematria for that. Call it a reach, call it a stretch. I don't care. But of course, the unicorn. Look, I mean, this isn't like any NBA fan. If I were to ask somebody and they were like, "Oh yeah, no, like I love the NBA," I'd be like, "All right, cool. Well, what's Kristaps Porzingis' nickname?" They would say the Unicorn. Like that's his nickname. So there you go. Now you got the unicorn. And we talked about how the unicorn got interflipped with like the pot of gold, right? And think about that. The unicorn won the gold and that flipped. And anyways, last piece. I love this last page. As for the tasty red balloons, right? There was like, after all of this, you haven't talked about the red balloons. Well, it just made me think about the movie It. Made me think about the clown. And then with everything that, we've been talking about, if you can scroll down and just show the punchline, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Love, balloon, clown, Trump. It just, I was hoping that by the end of this last page, people would be like, whoa. Like, whoa, okay, all right. You might have a lot of questions, but hopefully you got some answers. You got some things that you took away that you didn't learn yesterday. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
And that is my finale. That's it. That's the whole thing. I do want to again thank you, Sean. So maybe if you can just scroll to the thank you section that I put out for you in the thank you section on the last page. Obviously, I always thank my wife for her giving me this opportunity. But yeah, thank you, Sean. I always appreciate the work that you do. I know you did just change your name though, so that's the only bummer is that I put in that tag on YouTube versus Widow's Son, but yeah. So
yeah, I did amazing job, bro. Like, yeah, this crazy though. 78 pages, but everything is like crucial. Like everything fits.
And a lot of them are images, right? We've been on this for a while, but we've been taking the time to like stop at an image and talk about it. But like I told you, I mean, I read it and I timed myself and I tried to take my time, and it's about a 35 minute read, depending on how long you want to look at the images, right? That's kind of the main thing. If you want to look at the image and then keep going, I'd say about 30, 35 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love the visuals. I love the story. I guess to wrap it up, why I said they're after me is because the end of the Lucky Charms commercials is they are after me, Lucky Charms. They're after me, Lucky Charms. That's where this whole thing came from. I feel like by the end of this, I was like, holy smokes, every single Lucky Charm is in this. It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I don't know. Other than, I think the more important stuff, which was like love and light and luck and, the chakra system. It ties back into the other stuff that we've talked about in other books. There's a lot to it. But
Yeah.
I feel like this kind of told an interesting story, an interesting way to look at it. But then hopefully more people are focused on the love and light connections and the luck connections and the magic connections rather than, ooh, Lucky Charms, this is dumb. It's like, no, it's showing you that, no, it is that simple. But, the farther you go, you're going to see how much more meaningful it is, even though you might not necessarily know the meaning fully. But you're going to better know, right?
Yeah.
Which is going to make you want to learn more, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, man, it's late.
Yeah.
2 on the nose. I know it's midnight over at your time, but I do got to wrap it up. But is there anything else you want to say? Anything else in the chat that we wanted to address?
I don't know if there's anything new. Yeah, it isn't. I think we're good on that. But yeah, I just wanted to say, well, first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who was watching, especially whoever was here since the beginning. I'm not sure if anyone who's watching now was here since the beginning, but regardless, if you're watching, I appreciate it because I know it was really different time than I usually stream, and it might be pretty late for some of you guys. But yeah, man, again, I just wanted to say you did a freaking amazing job on this, and yeah, dude, I'm just really impressed.
I really appreciate it, dude. Seriously. I mean, to me, it just goes back to the beginning where I'm trying to kind of do what you said that you've noticed about the work is just, it does have to be lighthearted and fun and interesting, for people to lean in rather than just, oh, this is a math lesson, and by doing that, I feel like more people are going to lean in. Oh, interesting. You guys are going long, but I have to watch back. Yeah, no worries. It's all good. But yeah, that's all I want to say is just thank you again, Sean. I really, really appreciate the platform. I appreciate your insight. You were a big, big part of this project. And honestly, all of the mini books I've done. Honestly, every single one. And these are just the mini books. If you guys are interested, shoot me a DM on Instagram. That's pretty much the only way to get a hold of me, unless you reach out to Sean and then he'll hook it up. But yeah, it's all about knowledge, and it's all about making it fun, making it interesting, and making it worthwhile for somebody.
Yeah,
and keeping them engaged, right? Keeping them engaged.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think you do it. You're definitely one of the best at doing that. So keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it, man. And yeah, I mean, shout out to the chat myself. Zenith, I'd love to connect about this whole Batman hush thing. That sounds really interesting. That sounds like low-hanging fruit. You know what I mean? Really? Trump, hush money, billionaire, Batman, hush. Really? It's called Hush.
DC Comics,
Anyways.
Washington, DC.
Yeah, exactly. So always love the contributions in the chat. Really appreciate the time. It's late. Good night, everybody. Have a great week.
Mm-hmm.
Stay positive.
Yes, please.
Stay positive, you guys. Stay positive. the world has enough around us that will try to bring you down. Don't let it happen.
Yeah. Thanks again, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Of course, bro. Thank you too, Sean. We'll chat tomorrow, man. I'll shoot you a text.
Sounds good.
All right, brother.
Talk to you
Later.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.